Hello? 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 Hello. Welcome. We're gonna get started right here, right now, right here, right now. I cannot wait. Where is it? There it is. The Gay Ace Attorney Chronicles by Capcom. And make sure that the levels are good because I had to change some of them based on the collab. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. How's it sounding? How's everything sounding? It looks like the game's too loud based on the visualization of the levels, but I don't know. What do you think? Can I get a yeetaw again in chat for levels? Also, I finally fucking fixed my model. I made it so that it's only keying one eye, so when I blink, either it works or it doesn't work. But it doesn't just go halfway because I'm over here. Oh, I can't see. Oh, I'm over here. I don't know what a glass is on. Why is the game not loading? Capture any full screen application. How about now? You want to load? There we go. But the audio should be coming through. I'm gonna turn it down so that the max is about 20. Oh, thank you for the follow. Wait, is that the bot? I think that's a bot. Whatever. Anyways. Just let me know how the levels are. I'll adjust them as needed. No, I need to select the Great Ace Attorney 2 Resolve. Wait, shoot. A friend of mine told me to change something. So I need to just really quickly restart this. Huh, we're back in Japan. Interesting. Oh, it's Susato! We'll be... have to, friend of mine told me to disable the, costume settings. So... it should be in special content under Taylor, right. Okay. Alright, now we're getting into it. And now we can actually watch this cutscene without fear. Ooh, the summer cicadas. I guess they would be consistent for years. Oh no, Professor Mikotoba, he kicked it? He bit it?
Standing here in the bright sunshine, looking out over the vast ocean. Those days in London seem like a dream. But I do miss my time in England's vast capital. You know, he's flourished into a truly wonderful lawyer.
Yeah. Point.
I've I've no doubt that at this very moment, he's fighting some noble cause in court.
He's probably eating shit.
Forgive me for taking so long to come to visit you.
Oh,
My
no.
life has been such a whirlwind since I returned.
Oh, okay. She did get there in time,
And
probably.
no one could have predicted what has happened. Just 2 months after arriving home.
Oh, no. A pen? A knife? A glass? Oh, you again! You!
So I came here today to ask something of you. Tomorrow, I shall be standing in court.
Miss Giselle Brett.
As a lawyer.
Giselle Brett was murdered?!
I ask for your guidance. Kazuma-sama.
Okay, I thought it was her dad's grave, but this is Cosmo's grave. Okay, that makes sense. Yeah, blue hair! Kin! The blossoming attorney. I gotta get my British accents ready to go. Ticka 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 ricka ticka ticka ricka ticka ricka ticka 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 ricka ticka 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 ticka. Here I am again after 9 months, the Supreme Court of Judicature of Japan. I feel so nervous, but I must steel my nerves and find a way to compose myself. Oh, he's still alive! Ah, good, you're here. It doesn't do for a lawyer to be late. Oh, yes, good morning, sir. I hardly recognize you. You cut a fine figure, counsel. But you look as white as a sheet, and those wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Oh dear. Truth is, I'm so incredibly nervous, I feel utterly nauseated. I almost wish that I'd never been born. Goodness, not the sort of thing a father hopes to hear from his daughter, I must say. This is my father, Eugene Mikotoba, professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University. Excuse me? She doesn't have blue hair. This is a fucking con job. Would I be correct in thinking that you're to be my lawyer in court today? Oh, yes? Yes, that's right, miss... Well, I want to thank you for agreeing to represent me! I swear on my life. It's a complete fabrication, the whole thing! Rei Membami. Born the same year as I and my greatest friend. Though unusual for a woman in our time, she works at the University Research Laboratory helping my father. And sadly, she's the defendant in today's trial. Accused of committing a truly awful murder. Same age? Best friend? In the whole world? Same situation as Kazuma and Ryunosuke? The gays really do be winning at every turn, huh? Are you feeling alright? Since we started talking, you seem, well, to have become a little flushed. Oh my, it's just that, you're really pretty, Susato-san. You can't make this shit up. Sorry? And when I fall under your intense gaze, it makes me feel rather bashful. Goodness, I don't think she knows. She hasn't realized who I am. It would seem our little plan for this trial is going to work. Oh, what? Oh! She's dressed up like a guy. If even your best friend can't see through the disguise, I think we can relax. Disguise? Yes, I've never tried dressing this way before, of course, so I wasn't sure how convincing it would be. But this does make me feel a little relieved, as you say, Father. Father? Ah! that you? Susato! I'm so sorry I didn't say something sooner, Ray. It's just that... No! What are you doing? What's going on? What? That varsity uniform, that varsity cap, that varsity cape, that varsity badge! Look at you! You look for all the world just like a student of the Imperial Yume University! A male student! I'm so glad you think so. It means all my preparations have been worthwhile. I woke at 4 this morning to make a start. But I don't understand. Why are you dressed like that? Well, you see... It was the only way. The only way she would be permitted into the Supreme Court to take on your defense in this trial. My defense? Never before in my life have I felt so frustrated at having been born into this body. Hello. We're just having some gender moments here. Courts in Japan are barred to women. We're not even allowed to set foot inside the courtroom, despite the fact that the laws of this land apply to all people, male and female alike. But women are forbidden. Just for today, I'll be leaving my true self at the courtroom door, so that I can act as your lawyer. Her gender is lawyer, regardless of what that entails. Oh, Susato, you'd go to such lengths for me? Of course, you're my greatest friend. I just worry that I shan't be the lawyer you deserve. Oh no, I have complete faith in you! Ray. It's so strange, though. I mean, you're such an accomplished judicial assistant already, and yet just because you're a woman... What a wretched reason! I mean, why shouldn't you be allowed in court? You're so gallant and dashing. Ray. Please don't look at me like that, with those flushed cheeks and doting eyes. I'm gonna fall for you too. Oh, I'm sorry, it's just... You really do look so dashing. Yes, you mentioned that once or twice, or 3 times, or 4 times, or 7 times, or every day. I am pleased, I think. It's certainly helped to bolster my confidence today. Ray, you're managing to put on a brave face in all this, but I can see through it. I've noticed how your shoulders are slumped, and how you're trembling ever so slightly. Susato, you do believe me, don't you? I didn't do it. I couldn't have. I mean, murder? Of course. You have nothing to worry about. Your conscience is perfectly clean. Isn't that right? Yes, it is. Perfectly clean! I've absolutely no doubt in my mind about your innocence, which is why I'll stand by you until the bitter end in this trial. Whatever happens, I'll always be on your side! Because that's what it means, to be a defense lawyer, to be gay and also homosexual. You mean so much to me, Susato. Defendant, counsel! Court is about to begin. Proceed to the courtroom at once. You should go in at once, Ray. If you're late, the judge won't hesitate to pronounce you guilty. Oh. Stand aside! Murder. Well, Susato, you've certainly surprised your father, going to such lengths to be admitted into the courtroom, and with no prior experience of being a lawyer. There was simply no other way. That's all there is to it. But father, you haven't told her, have you? I mean, I'm right in assuming that Ray doesn't know how it came to this. Yes, quite right. I've kept that information from her. It would only worry her if she found out that no other lawyer would agree to take on her case. I didn't want to burden her with that. And is it true? The reason why every other lawyer is refusing to take the case? Is it really because of who the victim was? We should be making a move now, too. As you know, law isn't my field, but I'll do what I can to support my student. Thank you, Father. God damn it, Giselle Brett, you fucking... How many times have I wished that he were here? I wonder. Still, I have no choice now but to steel myself for the trial ahead. Wish me luck. Naruhodo-san. Kazuma-sama. Mitsurugi-san as well, whoever that might be. I only know Edgeworth's Japanese name because of the ship name Narumitsu. Ha! You still have your fucked up hair. Get fucked, pain. I mean, ouchie. Taketsuchi, ouchie. The prosecution is fully ready to proceed, Your Excellency. Defense Counsel, are you ready? Yes, Your Excellency, we are ready. Ready! Ah, yes, Counsel. According to your registration details, your name is, Ryutaru Naruhodo. Is that correct? Sorry? Oh yes, I had to come up with a suitable male name for you for this little venture. So I'm afraid to say I simply put down the first name that sprung to mind. Well, Counsel! Yes, that's right. That's me. Yes, I am Ryutaru, who has vowed to uphold the pride of the great Naruhodo clan. Ah. It seems Ryutaru may need to consider how better to uphold his manly act first and not overdo it. And those wild, wide eyes aren't doing you any favors either. Just relax and listen. Naruhodo? A fresh face in this courtroom, if I'm not mistaken. But the name Naruhodo, would that perchance be... You may be thinking of Ryonosuke Naruhodo, currently in Britain as part of a study program. This is, his cousin! That's right, Ryutaru here has been studying in the provinces, but was called to the capital for this trial. I assure you, in matters of law, his knowledge rivals that of any of Tokyo's preeminent lawyers. Any of them! Tut, tut, tut. What a pitiful situation. Having been rejected by every lawyer in the capital, the accused has had to call in a country boy. How dare you! I won't have you making fun of her. Oh, Please shut up, Ray. What an unrefined tomboy we have here. But I wonder, is your gallant and dashing lawyer up to the challenge of defending you? His wide, skittish eyes very much suggest that he is not. I'm so nervous. Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand what Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, eyes are wont to flit. The case to be heard on this day is a matter of great significance to our national interests. In fact, it would be reasonable to assume that the outcome of this trial may well affect the very future of our empire. Just like the trial 9 months ago. And yet for proceedings of such importance, we have this. Unknown yokel by the dock? Dear me. Perhaps this would be an appropriate moment for me to assess the defense. To determine whether you are sufficiently competent to protect in the... Yeah, he had to be. This will be easy. Do you consent to answering some simple questions? Yep, took out the jacket. Alright, it's time to prove myself. Yeah! Let's go! Yes, Your Excellency! But please do make them simple. Very well, to start with, you will state the name of the victim. Whew, that is simple. I couldn't forget that if I tried. Ah. What's the matter? Now that I'm standing in his shoes, I'm starting to understand something else Naruhodo-san goes through. Like it or not, minds are wont to blink. It's not surprising, really. It's your first time in this position and in that guise. Even a bright spark like you is bound to flicker and falter a little under the circumstances. Oh dear. Dismal failure. Just check the court record. Just check the court record. Check the court record. The court record. Yes, the answer will be amongst all the key information about the case in the court record. That's right, just use E to open up the court record. Flip to the people section with E in the court record. Don't take too long over it. In the court record. There we go. Giselle Brett, British, English, female. 11th, ascertained by examination and witness statements that could be incorrect. Single deep stab wound from behind, piercing lung and resulting in a favorable hemorrhage. Death would have occurred within minutes. Extreme meiosis, pupil constriction was observed in the victim in both eyes. Huh. He's my dad. She's my best friend. She's the murder victim. The lead prosecutor of this case, who appears to be struggling to accept the changes afoot as a result of these turbulent new times in Japan, the Meiji era.
Yes!
Oh, I forgot there is a achievement you get from saying everyone else's names. Let's load that autosave, and we'll save and just reload it. I want to get the achievement. Luckily, I can skip through this text, even though since I've technically read it before. The victim in this case is, yes, Prosecutor Takatsuchi Ouchi. What? Why the sudden triumphant cry of yes? Are you threatening to kill me? He seems angry. And you're surprised? Did you consult the court record? You must look through it carefully. Oh yes, I did, of course. I looked at everyone on file, and I chose the person whose features appeared to be the most deathly. I must say, this most unusual methodology of yours leaves me almost speechless. It occurs to me with renewed certainty that reading the information carefully is vitally important. Very well, I will excuse this incorrect response given your wide-eyed state of panic. The victim in this case is none other than Professor Yujin Mikotoba. What? Well, to be written off by one's own child. Father, you seem suddenly so much older and wearier than you were mere moments ago. Because of you, clearly! The judge is asking for the victim's name, the person who was killed in this case. Look through the information in the court record again, carefully, before you kill me for mercy's sake. Oh dear. Yeah, Father Frustrator! I got the achievement.
Yes!
Yes! Hands up. The name of the victim who lost her life in this case is Miss Giselle Brett. Giselle Brett. A name that will never be forgotten in the courtrooms of our country, I'm sure. Correct. And being a member of our empire's judiciary, you will be well aware of the significance of that name. So, let me pose another simple question. As you know, Miss Brett was a visiting student from the Empire of Great Britain. Why, then, is her name indelibly associated with our own empire's judicial history? Obviously, you won't have forgotten that case from 9 months ago. But if it's proving hard to recall the finer points, everything you need is included in the court record. Behind the woman's student persona was the face of... Queen Victoria!
Yes!
Yes! 9 months ago, a visiting professor of medicine at the Imperial Yume University was killed, and the culprit was... Giselle Brett. She was a killer. Oy, oy, oy. Damn. I believe it's an associate of yours, Professor Mikotoba? you know if he had any daughters? He'd been my mentor when I went to London to study forensic medicine. Indeed, it was I who invited him here to Japan as a visiting professor at the university. Naturally, the murder of an Englishman on our soil was a matter the government wished to resolve rapidly. Indeed it was, which is why a secret trial was conducted here in the Supreme Court. A student of the Imperial Yume University was arrested on suspicion of murder, a second-year English language student by the name of Ryonosuke Naruhodo. With the help of his best friend, a student lawyer, the accused conducted his own defense and exposed the despicable crime committed by Miss Giselle Brett. Poison through the method of curare. Miss Brett eventually admitted to her crime. However, when questioned about the motive that drove her to take Dr. Wilson's life, she gave no satisfactory answer before the trial reached its conclusion. Immediately after the trial, the British government brought its consular jurisdiction into play. We were unable to sentence Miss Brett according to our empire's laws. It was decided that she would be removed to Shanghai, China, instead. Why Shanghai? There's a British consular court there. Correct. I oversaw the negotiations personally. The date of her transfer to Shanghai was finally settled upon only last week. All that remained of our empire's obligations was to see the woman safely on board a steamship. And yet, the very day before her departure, the Englishwoman was killed! Only the day before? That's a very interesting side thing, is that the sound of the discussion amongst the court peoples is much louder than it is in England, which is interesting. Oh! Thank you, Your Excellency! Over the first hurdle. Now, a summary of the incident, if you please. Prosecutor Auchi. As is your wish, Your Excellency. The repugnant crime took place on the 11th August, in broad daylight. Oh, that's pretty. On the outskirts of the Imperial capital, under a bright blue sky, at a secluded bathing spot by the sea. The incident occurred inside a small beach hut, erected for bathers to rest or change their clothes. The cause of death was a single stab wound to the posterior abdomen that pierced the victim's lung, an injury which proved fatal. There were two persons alone together in the beach hut at the time of the victim's death, Miss Brett in her bathing attire, and the accused, Ray Membami. Accordingly, there can be no doubt of the accused's guilt, especially when we consider she had a powerful motive. The police arrived rapidly at the scene and promptly arrested the young lady. Well, that extraordinary description of events leaves me somewhat lost for words, I must say. That's certainly true. The prosecution summary was full of words that raise an awful lot of questions. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about a powerful motive. You're clearly exaggerating. Powerful motive is a blatant overstatement. Tut, tut, tut. Is the yokel boy using long words he doesn't fully understand? I beg your pardon? No matter. Let us put this to the accused, shall we? Membani-san, you are a research assistant at the Imperial University, I believe? Yes, I am. I'm working with Professor Mikotoba in his laboratory at the moment. I can confirm that. The defendant is an excellent assistant with a strong sense of responsibility. Fascinating to hear. Now, another question. Prior to your work with Professor Mikotoba, whose research were you assisting then? Oh, I was studying under Dr. John H. Wilson. Dr. Wilson? The visiting English professor who was murdered by Miss Brett 9 months ago? Ah, revenge. That's a good motive. I think we should let her off because it was good that she died. Yes, Dr. Wilson was a wonderful man. Interesting. And tell the court what deep-seated feelings you had towards the Englishwoman who killed him. Well, obviously I was filled with hatred for what she'd done. A powerful hatred. Oh no, Ray, be careful of what you're saying! motive was revenge. Plain and simple, Your Excellency. Well, it was clearly a trap all along. How wicked of him to use Ray's undying respect for her former mentor against her like that. I must find out more details, and something we can use to bolster our defense. As a lawyer, I really ought to pick up the prosecution counsel on what he said about... the being alone together. Membami-san. Yes, what is it? Naruhodo-san. I'm really starting to wish we'd made my alias Ryotaro Susato. Please tell the court why exactly you were present at the bathing spot with the victim in the first place, and why you were alone with her. Oh, well, no, that's not true. It wasn't like that at all. There were other people present, a detective who was guarding Miss Brett for starters. I was just asked to accompany Miss Brett as a companion, that's all. But let us be clear, at the moment of her death, you were alone together with the victim in the hut. You and no one else. The truth is, there is only one reason why this young woman accompanied Miss Brett on her bathing sojourn. It was the accused's last chance to take the victim's life! No. Because, as we know, the following day would see Miss Brett extradited to the British authorities in Shanghai. And the accused would never have an opportunity to dispatch her again. Kindly refrain from conjecture, counsel. Prosecution counsel seems to enjoy using provocative tricks like that. But for now, at least, we needed to assemble more facts. Try not to let him goad you. Oh dear, this is really terrifying. But Father's right. If I may, Prosecutor Ouchie. What do you want, you fresh-faced young yokel student? I wonder, could you explain, please? You mentioned a bathing spot. Ha! My apologies. Clearly my modernity has confused the poor country bumpkin's simple mind. Bathing spots are the very latest trend in health practices from the West. We are told that bathing in the water of the ocean is curative, therapeutic, and excellent for the skin's... No, that's not what I meant. I was referring to the fact that Miss Brett had, to all intents and purposes, been found guilty of murder. Why would a known criminal have been relaxing by the sea? For old time's sake, I believe. Sorry? Miss Brett was to depart for Shanghai the following day. Her final wish, as it were, was to enjoy a day at our country's wonderful coast. And the British Embassy put extreme pressure on our government to comply. But on what grounds would we agree to such a request? Because, as usual, our government is unable to stand up to foreign powers. In matters of diplomacy, it seems we don't even have the courage to decline the whims of a known criminal. Don't look at me, Professor! It was the government who granted permission, not I! In any case, it was decided that with a dedicated detective on duty, nothing could go wrong. But in fact, a murder took place. I said don't look at me! It was the young student girl who did it, not I! No one has proved that yet. I wouldn't provoke the man if you don't need to. We have a clearer picture of the incident now. Ugh. Seeing the murder of the mentor for whom she had such great respect enjoying such undeserved liberty. Yes, even if it was only temporary until Miss Brett's extradition to Shanghai, you can hardly blame Ray for her feelings of anger and resentment. Poor Ray. So, Your Excellency, if you'd be so kind as to peruse this exhibit, a photographic print that shows the scene of the crime immediately following the grim incident. Yeah, let's see the photo, yeah! Yes, thank you, Counsel. A tragic image. A tragic image indeed. She just has, like, a fuck ton of these stupid fucking masks. God damn it. Her handbag's still there. Shit, that's consistent. Inside the dress. Court will accept this photographic print as evidence. As I understand it then, the victim and the defendant were alone inside the beach hut at the time. Got the feathers, the swan's dead. Rip the swan. Okay. Okay. Nothing that could be considered a clue anywhere else. This is deeply troubling, I must say. The finger of guilt points firmly at the defendant. Well, Your Excellency, naturally the prosecution has much more to its case. We intend to prove the accused's appalling actions beyond all possible contention. To that end, I can confirm that we have multiple witnesses to the crime, and damning evidence. Yeah, we'll see how that holds up to fucking scrutiny, you fucking... One of whom, I might add, is a highly respected police detective. I assure you, the testimony of these witnesses will leave no room for doubt. Ugh. Give me Hosonaga! Give me Hosonaga! Give me Hosonaga! I, Takatsuchi Ouchi, have been waiting for this moment. Sorry? Oh yes, I haven't forgotten. That trial 9 months ago, here in this very courthouse, when that irreverent little student shit utterly humiliated me. My hair was up. Ryonosuke Naruhodo! This insult to the Ouchi family name will never be forgotten. You've become conceited with age, Counsel, but the old have to stand aside and make way for the new. It's the way of the world. May you never forget that! Pog. Strike the head of a samurai whose top knot has been cut, and the bell of cultural enlightenment tolls. Yes, on the fateful day, my former self died. Start of your own mini-Meiji revolution. Are you modernizing as well, Counsel? Silence! Since I swore revenge back then, there has been a minor miracle atop my head. Observe the Ouchi growth! You see the seed of hope sprouting forth from the barren expanse of my crown. I think the tiny growth is trying to tell me something. I'm afraid I can't really see. Where is the hope exactly? I said science! Today I face another of the Naruhodo clan. Well, I will vanquish you, and my victory will be fertilizer for the seed of hope atop my head. You have been warned. With that, the prosecution calls the witness to the stand. Witness says to the stand. Looks like the stakes are high on both sides in this trial. Prosecution and defense each has much to lose. A haircut is hardly comparable to Rei's life. Yeah! Yo! Soseki Natsume! Witnesses, please state your names and occupations for the court. Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga, Imperial Police Bureau. I'm in disguise, obviously, so I can go undetected. And I am, well, the next big thing in books, an author renowned throughout the capital, in fact, yes. Soon to be sold out, the satirical I Am a Cat, the sensationalist success by Soseki Natsume! We gotta bring him back. We gotta bring him back. Yeah! He's just gonna be here, don't worry about him. Oh my goodness! Struggling student from the provinces, please, you needn't be in awe of me. I needn't. It's only natural that you'd feel nervous in my presence. But all of you, please, relax. Call me Soseki, even. Yes. What on earth is Soseki-san doing here? Tread carefully, Susato. That author fellow knows you from your time in London, doesn't he? If he exposes you for who you really are, this will be over before it's begun. Yes, of course, I know. I presume Soseki-san won't have forgotten about me. I could certainly never forget him. Although he does seem to have changed somewhat in the 6 months or so that it's been since I last saw him. And as for Inspector Hosonaga, that amazing outfit is hard to believe. Do I have something on my face? Well, your glasses, for one, although they don't seem to be helping you see. Thank goodness he hasn't recognized me either. Ah, I suppose it's this disguise, is it? I thought that appearing here in the clothes I was wearing at the time would make for a more faithful testimony. It is my guiding principle to carry out all testimonies flawlessly. Well, I can appreciate why an Imperial Police Bureau detective might have been present, but what business did a writer such as yourself have being at the scene, Soseki-san? Ah, well, you see, I had been asked that day to give a lecture on the morning of the incident in the Imperial Yume University's Grand Lecture Hall, no less. At Yume University? After the lecture, I had a very pleasant conversation with a researcher from the Medical Science Department. The professor over there, in fact. With Professor Mikotova? Yes, that's right. It was arranged by one of the newspapers. They wanted some story or other about 2 former students who'd studied in Great Britain. Of course, being a renowned author, the press never leaves me alone. They secretly spy, snapshots, scribble stories, and scupper my privacy. As you can see, the conversation was written up in this newspaper here. Read it at your leisure, my provincial struggling student friend. I have plenty of copies. Thank you very much. You practically threw that paper at me. Time to examine it. Anyway, following my interview with the professor... Nope. Hold up. Give me a second. Dab. Dab on him. Yo, Wagahai! How'd you get Wagahai? How'd you get him back here? It's been months. And no pets allowed on the fucking boat. Interesting, though, that it seems that the photographer's camera was cracked. I do enjoy his dab on him. The lady in question appeared and made a very unexpected announcement. I should like to go with everyone to see your country's coast. Those were her words. As I explained before, Miss Brett was never taken into custody. She continued to work in my laboratory under strict surveillance, of course. At which utterance, the university immediately contacted the government to seek guidance. And the response was, permit Miss Brett to go as long as a detective accompanies her. That detective, I am at liberty to divulge, was me, Chief Inspector Satoru Hosonaga. The entire party departed cordially for the seaside, it seems. It was extremely challenging to clear all other members of the public from the vicinity of the beach. But fortunately, I am at peak physical fitness at the moment, so I was able to carry out my duty flawlessly. Oh my, Inspector, you do have something on your face now. Ah, how unsightly. I do apologize. Does that mean you went to the beach too, Father? No, fortunately I had work to finish off. But unfortunately, of course, it meant that, as my assistant, Ray was invited to take my place. Of course, being a renowned author, I didn't like to decline the invitation. Ah, but if only I'd never seen that awful sight! Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret! Fucking love this guy. Very well, I must now ask you to present your formal testimony to the court. You will give an account of all that you witnessed on your impromptu excursion to the coast. Of course, Your Excellency. Relentlessly racked by remorse and regret, I am. Bro, you're just happy to be back in Japan, ain't you? The witnessed scene. On the day of the incident, I was ordered on a special surveillance assignment in this disguise. I just managed to catch that crab when I suddenly heard a caterwaul from behind me. I ran into the beach hut at once, where I found the pair in question. Yes, that young girl was astride the Englishwoman, dagger in hand, as she stabbed wildly. I saw blood on the blade. It proved to be me that she'd stabbed the victim multiple times. Alright, we can object to both of those, but we're going to say multiple times just because it's way more specific. Now, incorrect. Now, if you will recall, I promised evidence as well. What phrase did I use again? Ah, yes, that was it. Damning evidence. What have you there, Counsel? A so-called fountain pen, is it? Correct, Your Excellency. I found it at the scene whilst examining the body. It appears that in her dying moments, with her final ounce of strength, the victim clutched a piece of evidence that would positively identify her killer. What? Your Excellency, if you would cast your eyes over the photographic print of the crime scene once more. Ah, goodness me. Yes, the victim is clearly grasping something quite deliberately there in her hand. That's right, the fountain pen. And if you would kindly examine the pen, Your Excellency, Ah! The owner's initials have been engraved into the ebonite barrel. R.M. Ray Mambami. The initials of the defendant. No! Haha. Now you know what it's like. Now you know what it's like to get thrown up against the wall by facts and logic. Time to examine it. I can't examine it yet. Okay. Yes, you've omitted the knife. The knife. I don't understand. The prosecutor outed you of 9 months ago. Had none of this man's poise. Naruhodo-san. Naruhodo. That means... Oh, yes, me! Is there another Naruhodo in my courtroom? Well, there isn't even a single Naruhodo in your courtroom. Cousin Ryutaro, pull yourself together, please. Alright, I've seen this countless times as a judicial assistant. Find inconsistencies in the witnesses' testimonies to prove that they're lying somehow. That's all there is to it. That's how a real lawyer would handle a cross-examination. So let's see what I can do. Let's go, cross-examination.
Objection!
Objection! With that accusatory cry that just welled up from deep inside me, I think I finally understand. Every time Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san have stood here at this bench. The stakes have been very, very high indeed. What's the meaning of that menacing pose, counsel? I'd like the witness to clarify something for me. Who? What? Where? When? How? Not you, Soseki-san. The query is directed at Inspector Hosonaga. At me? In your statement just now, you said that the victim was stabbed multiple times. Yes, that's right. As I said, when I entered the hut, the defendant was already standing over the victim, bloody knife in hand, like a murderous demon. And yet, that cannot be. What? Get to the point, please, counsel. In the post-mortem report, it clearly states that the victim was stabbed one time only. In other words, Inspector Hosonaga's testimony is clearly flawed. And Soseki-san, me? You claim to have seen Membani-san in the throes of stabbing the victim. Yes, I did. Wildly! But both you and the inspector confirmed the same point, that there was already blood on the knife that you saw the defendant holding. Yes, and? It's quite simple. We know the murder weapon was used to stab the victim only once. Therefore, there's no way there could have been blood on the knife if that single stabbing hadn't already occurred. True! And what exactly is your contention, counsel? Are you ever going to tell us? Yes, Your Excellency. There's only one logical conclusion. What Soseki-san in fact saw was not the moment that the defendant stabbed the victim at all, but the moment that the defendant, in fact, withdrew the blade from the victim's body. That can't be! Excellent work, Susato. You exploded at them with that objection, and then proceeded to pull them apart systematically. Objection! Well, this takes me back. Yes, I seem to remember your cousin staged a scene much like this in that trial 9 months ago. A half-witted child with a half-baked objection, attempting to steal the show. You're right, there were certain similarities. Except that so-called half-witted child managed to outwit the prosecution, who has only half a head of hair. Slender! My head is quite adequately dressed! In any case, all this talk of stabbing and withdrawing and multiple wounds, it makes not a jot of difference. What? Why not? Engage your brain, young man. When the accused first plunged the deadly weapon into the victim, that was the fatal blow. And it was in that moment, just as she had withdrawn the blade ready for her next strike, that the witnesses saw. The knife was already tainted with blood because the accused had already stabbed the victim. All you've successfully shown with your little display is that the mustached author is prone to moments of extravagance. Ugh. Oof. Oof. I'm in agreement with the prosecution. If the defendant was seen wielding the blade at all, that is sufficient grounds for her actions to be viewed with suspicion. But if she was withdrawing the blade, then we are back where we started. Sorry? Consider this, young yokel boy. If the student girl is innocent as you claim, then why would she have pulled the blade from the victim, and with a demon's cold-blooded composure, too? The prosecution demands an explanation, and it had better be good. Why did Ray pull out the knife? Ah, yes, going for the jugular. What does Father mean by that? Let the court hear your answer, then, counsel. The reason why the defendant pulled the knife blade out of the victim's body was surely so she could save her life. According to the post-mortem report, the victim's death was not instant. That's correct. It's thought she would have remained conscious for a short while after sustaining the injury. Indeed, given her time to take hold of this piece of evidence that clearly indicates her killer. The point is, being a medical research assistant, Membani-san was compelled to act when faced with a wounded victim. Instinctively, she pulled the blade out in an attempt to save Miss Brett's life. Did you hear that, Your Excellency? It would seem this is the best we can expect of this young yokel. Indeed. Is it just me, or does it suddenly feel much colder in here? Your Excellency, if I may? Speak, witness. I'd like another opportunity to testify. In respect to the slipshod assertion just put forward by the yokel defense counsel, I mean. Slipshod? An excellent idea, Inspector. Our young yokel hopeful has a modicum of knowledge when it comes to the law, it seems. But in matters of medicine, he appears to possess not one iota of common sense. Very well, Inspector, I will permit your request. You will testify again before the court, on the subject of the defense counsel's assertion. Yes, sir, I will do so flawlessly. Pulling a blade from a wound without thinking could have caused heavy bleeding. That's basic knowledge that any medical research assistant with an ounce of sense ought to know. In other words, there's no good reason why the defendant would have tried to pull the knife from the victim. Let's not forget that the young student did have a motive for killing the victim. The man the victim murdered 9 months ago, Dr. Wilson, was the defendant's highly respected mentor. Is what you just said true, Inspector? Could pulling a knife from a wound really cause the woman to bleed heavily? Yes. Think of the weapon itself as a stopper in the wound that prevents excessive blood loss. Until a doctor is ready to provide proper treatment, that stopper shouldn't be removed. Oh, I see. Ha! This is why yokels should stay on the farm. Even a quack from some obscure mountain village would have such basic knowledge. Anyone who's ever given someone a little poke with a knife and pulled it out again knows it. Why have you stabbed somebody, Ouchie? Of course you haven't. I didn't bring you up to behave like a bandit. Father, is it true what they're telling me? Yes, it's basic remedial knowledge for medics. Ray would have been well aware of it. If she were to claim ignorance of such fundamentals, that would prove fatal in many ways. But then, why would Ray have done it? Could she have pulled out that knife in full knowledge that it would be fatal for Miss Brett? I don't know. Ray never once mentioned anything about the knife to me. It seems almost impossible to believe, but could my friend actually have... Susato! Pull yourself together. You mustn't lose sight of why we're here. Counsel, it's time for your cross-examination. Oh, yes, Your Excellency. However, I must warn you that if your cross-examination fails to identify any issue with the established facts, I'll be moving my adjudication immediately afterwards. I understand. believing in your clients and fighting for their cause until the bitter end. I knew it would be hard, but I had no idea it would be this hard. Jesus Christ. Alright, this is gonna be the pressing time. But the defendant had suddenly encountered somebody she knew lying on the ground, bleeding to death. The sight could have shocked her delicate sensibilities, causing her to remove the blade inadvertently. I really don't think inadvertent actions can explain this. The woman is a medical research assistant. I can't imagine she would behave so irrationally. Oh, but irrational behavior is a woman's prerogative, isn't it? Oh dear. You have a lot to learn about women. Only a small-minded man could have such bigoted views. Oh dear, perhaps I'm letting my male persona take hold a little too much. I'm becoming sexist, oh god! Well, have I managed to convey the basics now? That should cover the medical side of the argument.
Hold it!
Whatever the motive, it just isn't in Membani-san's nature to do something so awful. But she had both motive and opportunity. It's very hard to argue against. But you don't know the defendant. And you, counsel, do not appear to know the law. Yes, evidence is the only way to convince the court of your argument, not feelings. With this fledgling to defend her, I would almost say I pity the accused. So do I. Ah, yes. Miss Brett was in many ways the sworn enemy of Membami-san. Membami-san.
Hold it!
Well, yes, that's true. Dr. Wilson recognized Membami-san's talent and offered her the position of assistant despite her being a woman. She was extremely grateful to him. Yes, the Englishman appears to have been a very broad-minded individual. Dr. Wilson had no time for outdated traditions. He met with opposition, of course, but he believed firmly in Membami-san's abilities. Clearly, the defendant was in the man's debt, which only serves to prove my point. This is hopeless. I can't find a single crack in this testimony anywhere. If Ray knew that withdrawing the knife from the wound would threaten Miss Brett's life further, I just can't think of any way to explain why she did it. Susato, it's at times like these when it's especially important to remember the fundamentals. Evidence is what counts in the courtroom, isn't it? I've been through the court record dozens of times already. I think perhaps you're forgetting something, though. Examine the evidence. I know what to do! Kazuma-san and Naruhodo-san were always turning evidence over and over in their hands. Yes, I need to examine things in greater detail with space. Ah, by the look in your eyes, I see it's coming back to you. Go through the court record again and have a thorough look at everything. Let me just find a clue. Can I look at them yet? Yes, I can. But it isn't a Yume University one. It must belong to some other organization, I suppose. A business of some kind? But that would seem to imply that the pen doesn't in fact belong to Ray. What about taking the pen cap off? Now let's unscrew the barrel, shall we? Huh, it's empty. This must be the little reservoir that holds the ink. Yes, you fill it by drawing ink from a bottle up through the nib. Is something wrong, Father? Just that there doesn't actually appear to be any ink in there, that's all. Oh yes, you're right. It's pretty much empty. Well, it could be on the verge of running out, I suppose. Okay, we got everything. I mean, then the RM. It can't be any other initials. I don't think there can be any doubt that this is a key piece of evidence in this case. Yep. I did it. Let's continue pressing.
Hold it!
Just to be safe. You say doing it without thinking could be a problem. Does that mean that if you use due care and attention, it would be alright? I wouldn't have thought this needed spelling out, really. But the blade is like a stopper in the wound. Remove it, and a serious hemorrhage will occur. In other words, a medic would need to be present before any attempt was made to withdraw the blade. Doing it without thinking would be madness. You just can't do it. Oh, well, thank you for such a thorough explanation. You see, Counsel, when you act without thinking, the result is a bloodbath. Ugh. I don't see anywhere to specifically present the pen.
Hold it!
In that case, there's an obvious explanation here. Clearly, the defendant, Rei Membami-san, does not possess an ounce of sense. What do you think about that, Professor Mikotoba? I'm not sure that you should be labeling your best friend as lacking in common sense. Well, I thought it would be better than labeling her as a murderer. I don't know young people today. If that's friendship, I don't understand it. Careful, Counsel. A lack of common sense can be a very dangerous thing. Oh dear. That recoiled on me rather badly. That's life, I'm afraid. A lesson everyone must learn. Hopefully you can see now that this is really basic medical knowledge. Being involved in medical research, Membami-san would certainly have been aware of it. Huh. Okay. But what do I do here now? I've examined... Do I need to examine different evidence now? Let's see. Let's see. Oh my god, okay. This is the newspaper from Soseki-san. There seems to be an important article on the back page as well. Exclusive, deadly poison stolen from Yumei Medical University Research Laboratory. From Yumei's Medical Research. Father, isn't that your lab? What the? Let me see that! The poison's been stolen? It's this morning's paper that Soseki-san gave us. Are you saying you didn't know? As embarrassing as that is for the head of the laboratory, I didn't. I've not heard any such thing. Where on earth could the reporter have gleaned his information? Come to think of it, there was no article mentioning this story in our paper this morning, was there? It's a highly toxic poison we've been working on in the strictest confidence. I'd put Rei in charge of the project. Rei? She was managing it? If what's written here is true, it means that she tried to hide the theft from me. And moreover, the details were leaked somehow. I don't believe it. We need to read this article very carefully. Raucous England returnees tell all. This is the interview with Yun Soseki-san. Is it, Father? I do hope you weren't hurt. I was hoping to see if I could find, like, the name of the author. Either via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade would prove fatal in minutes. A deadly poison being secretly developed was stolen In the smallest amount entering the body, either via the mouth or via a wound from a poison-laced blade, would prove fatal in minutes. Current methods cannot detect the newly developed chemical. The university would have to be consulted. Onset of symptoms occurs within minutes, starting with impaired breathing and ending with acute contraction of pupils prior to death. Such symptoms would be suggestive of this toxin. It's apparently entirely new synthesis of alkaloids and rumored to have been commissioned by the military. Huh. I guess we present the poison. Let me save, though, because that's a big question mark.
Objection!
It worked! No, there is one possibility. One very good reason why the defendant might have decided to withdraw the knife from the victim's wound. What? Ha! The yokel not only has a poor grasp of the law, but is also a poor loser. Tell us then, what possibility do you think you've identified? It's here, in this newspaper article. An article about a deadly poison having been stolen from a laboratory at the Imperial
Objection!
The victim perished from a stab wound. Poison has no relevance in this case. But, Prosecutor Ouchie, you will let the defense speak. But a newspaper article, the court cannot rely on that kind of hearsay those wretched publications carry. Counsel for the defense, I am going to need some tangible basis for your claim. You will indicate to the court precisely what part of the newspaper article mentioned affirms your assertion. Yes, of course. This is very much the sequel to the game, because even though this is the tutorial case, it's still hard. Like, this is still a tough case. Let me double check. Why is the poison being developed? Because that includes the symptoms. The development of the poison was requested by the military. Yes. A troubling revelation indeed. Oh, it's very worrying. And yet, even more worrying is how this yokel is trying to manipulate the court with nothing more than rumors. No, I'm talking about the... I did! Ugh, okay. The article reveals the following property about the poison in question. When the toxin enters the body on a knife laced with the poison, it's rapidly absorbed and causes death in minutes. Are you suggesting it's a knife used to attack Miss Brett was laced with this very poison? It would explain why the defendant, Membami-san, would have withdrawn the blade as soon as possible. Yes, the truth is, it was an attempt to stop the poison from entering the victim's body. What? Objection! This is complete and utter nonsense! Not at all. The defendant withdrew the knife blade from the victim's body not to accelerate the woman's demise, but to save her life, and the prosecution cannot deny the possibility. Have you not read the post-mortem report? The cause of death was hemorrhage. The word poison appears nowhere in the document. Well, that's because by acting quickly to remove the blade, the defendant prevented the poison from taking hold.
Objection!
Oh please, this is clearly desperation, the weasel's last breaking of wind. Poison has nothing whatsoever to do with this case, as I believe the defense is well aware. We have no proof that the information in this wretched newspaper article is at all reliable anyway. In that situation, what the student should have done is wait for medical assistance to arrive. But instead, you claim she suspected poisoning and took the potentially lethal decision to remove the blade. She must have had a strong reason for her suspicions then, or the argument makes no sense. Exactly, well put, Inspector. On what grounds did she do it, yokel? Why did Ray suspect the stolen poison was involved? If you want grounds, I'll give you grounds. What? You can't possibly! From your expression, counsel, it would appear those are not empty words. But naturally, as you stand in the courtroom as a lawyer, you must be aware that words alone, empty or not, are of no value in our modern justice system. The court demands evidence! Yes, Your Excellency. I'm well aware of that. I've seen it many times from my place at his side in the Old Bailey. How exactly would you explain this piece of evidence's connection to the newspaper article? In truth, I'm not really sure. But my father always taught me to ask my elders whenever I was in trouble. Oh, okay. If it is advice you seek, counsel, then I suggest that before indiscriminately thrusting evidence under my nose, why not thrust it under the nose of the professor at your side? Ah, damn it. Good grief, thrusting that under my nose isn't going to solve anything here. We must use our heads. The article in the paper had details of the toxin. Oh, okay, now I prevent the fact that it was poison. I would ask the court to refer to the notes section of the post-mortem report, which reads, extreme meiosis, pupil constriction, was observed in the victim. Clearly, being a yokel with no knowledge of forensic science, I have no idea, so please do tell me. Presumably, the fact that this condition of the victim was noted in the post-mortem report means that it's an unusual symptom of death? Well, under normal circumstances, the pupils dilate when someone dies. If there was extreme constriction instead, that's most certainly unusual, yes. What are you doing, you yokel detective? In the newspaper article, there's the following information about the stolen poison. Onset of symptoms occurs in minutes, ending with acute contraction of the pupils prior to death. What? If the defendant, upon seeing the victim stabbed in the back, happened to notice that the pupils of Miss Brett's eyes had constricted severely. Yes, as a medical research assistant, she would have suspected poison immediately, without doubt. Prosecutor Ouchie, I think you'll agree. This is very compelling evidence. You yokel student and yokel professor! I believe the defense has expertly demonstrated a credible reason for the defendant's actions. No. Eugene Mikotoba. Yes, Your Excellency. I believe you are best placed here to confirm or deny the veracity of the defense's counsel's argument. You will tell the court the truth about the details reported in this newspaper, please. It pains me to have to admit it, but I'm afraid I don't know. You don't know? The toxin was kept under lock and key in my laboratory, certainly, but I was unaware of any theft. Do you mean to tell the court that the reports of this theft are unfounded? No, Your Excellency. Without returning to the laboratory to investigate myself, I couldn't say. Ha! Listen to the bumbling academic. Unaware of the theft of secret state research from his own workplace until he reads of it in a newspaper. I take full responsibility for the incompetence of my supervision. Father. A pitiful situation for a university professor. You should have more control over your students, rather than allowing them off on killing sprees. That's totally unfounded. Hold it! It's gonna be Ray. She's gonna testify, isn't she? Yeah! None of this is Professor Mikotoba's fault. It's all my fault! Ray. Membami-san, you stand accused here. Outbursts like this will not be tolerated. But it was me. I was the one who noticed that the poison we were developing had been stolen that day. What? So you knew. I'd been placed in charge of overseeing the project. It was the day that the professor and Soseki-san were interviewing today for the newspaper. That's when I noticed that some of the poison was missing. Just a tiny amount it was. Why didn't you let me know immediately? I was scared. The whole project was supposed to be confidential, but some of the toxin had somehow been taken. So, I decided I'd try to get it back before anyone else found out. Because I had a very good idea who the thief was. The thief? You don't mean... Yes, of course. It was that dainty Englishwoman. Miss Giselle Brett? That's why I decided to join the little group of people going to the seaside. Inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. I know it was you who stole the poison! Well now, whatever do you mean? And then, she suddenly got to her feet. before falling to her knees in front of me and then collapsing on the floor. That's when I saw the knife in her back. I couldn't understand what had just happened. And then, a moment later, I was seized with fear. The pupils of her eyes they'd shrunk to tiny pinpoints. I don't believe it. In other words, you realized that the victim was suffering the effects of the stolen poison. My mind started racing. I hadn't seen anything past Miss Brett's lips and whilst I'd been with her, which left only one possible way for the poison to have entered her body. On the blade of the knife in her back. And that train of thought was what spurred you to withdraw the blade. Yes, if the amount that had entered her bloodstream was small enough, she might still have a chance. That's what I hoped. Really, I'm so sorry for staying silent all this time! Your attempt to hide the truth of what happened is not something that can be overlooked. However, I have duly noted the courage with which you confessed in the end. Thank you, Your Excellency! It's barely perceptible, but I do think the balance has shifted a little here. In this courtroom now. Objection! Your Excellency, do not be deceived. The victim just collapsed before your eyes, you say. Well, Membami-san, if that is the case, perhaps you could explain how Miss Brett came to be stabbed. Well, you have no answer because the simple truth is that you stabbed the victim motivated by revenge. But you have no conclusive evidence to prove that assertion, do you? Oh, I have evidence, and it is very much conclusive. What's the prosecution counsel up to? It was brief, but he hesitated for a moment there. I'm almost sure of it. You'll produce the aforementioned evidence at once, Prosecutor Ouchie. Perhaps some praise is due, young yokel student. I'd imagine there would be no need for me to submit this evidence. But you've brought this on yourself! Ah, it's cracked! Haha, I knew it! What the? Could a more damning shot exist? The cruelty in the air on that beach is almost palpable. Hey look, I can see your fucking eyes, finally! This evidence, more than any other, reveals the true extent of the accused's murderous nature, for it shows the precise moment that Membami-san plunged her dagger into the victim's back. No, that's not true, no! I don't believe it. Ah! Counsel for the defense, was it you who was responsible for that shrill scream that just pierced my courtroom? Perhaps his voice is yet to break. These yokels are slow of mind and slow to mature. I don't have balls to drop. I'm sorry, Your Excellency. Careful now, Susato is starting to show her face here. It is often said that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and here we have ample proof. The court will accept this extremely cogent photographic print into evidence. But who took the print? I can't believe he's had a photograph like that up his sleeve the entire time. It's such a stark image. I'm genuinely lost for words. Wait a minute, I don't understand. How did you... I mean, who took that photograph? Ray. That's of no importance here. Stop trying to divert attention. Oh. Objection! Objection! That's an absurd thing to say. It's crucially important. Whoever took this photographic print was a witness to Miss Brett's death. The court must be allowed to hear this person's testimony. Ah! I will uphold the defense's demand. The prosecution will reveal the identity of the person responsible for taking this photograph at once. Well, I'm afraid I can't do that. Pardon? You see, this print arrived at the Imperial Police Bureau headquarters by express post yesterday, but there was nothing to indicate the sender's name or address. The provenance of the print is unknown. Goodness! Are we to understand then, counsel, that in full knowledge of the fact that this photograph has the murkiest of origins, you nevertheless believe it fit for submission as evidence to the Supreme Court? When you first produced that print before, I noticed that you hesitated for a brief moment, because you knew that it wasn't completely reliable evidence, didn't you? Silence, you yokel student and blabbering professor! Whatever matters is the blatant truth. What matters is the blatant truth that this print so eloquently expresses. The defendant has already admitted to pulling the blade from the wound. Clearly, this isn't the moment the knife was plunged into the victim's back, but The moment it was withdrawn? Don't waste this court's time with your ramblings. Indeed, without knowledge of who produced this print, we have no means of verifying the claim, and the scene it captures is without doubt the most compelling evidence presented to the court. If the defense is unable to shed any further light on the matter, I believe the conclusion is clear. Oh no! This is the time for you to fight. I know who took that photo. And to rue the day you came up against Takatsuchi Ouchi in a court of law! If I can't determine who took this photograph, then the trial is going to come to an end. There must be a clue somewhere. There must be some way of working out who took it. Well, counsel? Your Excellency, the burning question is who took that photograph. And the truth is, I have the answer! This isn't about whether I can or can't come up with the answer now. I simply have to. The identity of the person who took this dramatic photographic print is, I assure you, something the defense can and will reveal. What? No, you can't possibly! But, as you so boldly claim that you can, please, do enlighten us. Unfortunately, I'm unable to present a name. How utterly underwhelming. Did you really believe you could... However, I'm able to present evidence. The defense has a piece of evidence that reveals important details about the photographer's identity. What? Very well then, counsel. Present your proof to the court.
Take that!
What is that? The newspaper again? Raucous England returnees tell all. It's not the headline that's relevant here, Your Excellency. It's the photograph. If you look at it closely, you'll notice that there are some white lines on the right-hand side. Ah, yes, indeed. They had already caught my eye, as it happens. Ha! What of it? A shadow of some kind, presumably, from the branches of a tree or the like. There are no trees growing inside my laboratory at the university, I can assure you. Now, if you look closely at this photograph, if you look at it in stereoscope... Good gracious! Yes, exactly the same pattern of lines is present on this photograph, too. Well, that tells us nothing! Ha! Yes, it's a shadow of some kind, definitely, from the branches of a tree! There wouldn't be any trees growing inside a hut at the beach, counsel. What's quite remarkable about it is that the two patterns are absolutely identical. How could such an extraordinary similarity have transpired? Curious matching pattern that appears on both photographic prints is a result of a camera defect. Obviously, it must be due to a problem with the camera used to take the photographs. With the photographic device? Yes, we can confidently say that the camera's lens must be scratched, and that the scratched lens causes unwanted lines to appear on every print taken with the device. In short, the two photographs under consideration here were taken with the same camera. But there must be hundreds of such camera devices here in the capital. It would be utterly impossible to identify the owner of this particular one. I think you're forgetting, Prosecutor Ouchi, that one of the photographs featured in a newspaper article. A newspaper? Ah! That's right. The author of that article is the mystery witness to this crime. What? What? Get fucked. Many more. I see where he called it Rocket's England returnee. What did he just fucking say? Many more. What are you yelling about? You've already testified. It's many memo, I tell you. Many memo! Many memo! Soseki-san, what was that? Did you say many memo? Ever since I returned to Japan, a reporter from the Shoyu News has been hounding me, following my every move. A reporter by the name of Raiten many memo. Yes, hounding me from dawn till dusk. Ah, now that he mentions it. They're secretly spies, snapshots, scribble stories, and scuff from my privacy. That's so cool, too, because I wonder if in Japanese, the pen doesn't say RM, but it says de, me, the first two characters of both Rei and Membani, and also this guy's name. Oh, no, never mind. Raiten many memo. It would probably be best to have it in English then, if it's Raiten and not Reiten. A camera to the left of him, a notebook to the right. There I am, stuck in the middle with Raiten many memo. So you're saying that this picture was taken by many memo? Yes, my lord, your excellency, Esquire. Officer, find this newspaper reporter at once and bring him to my courtroom. We will adjourn for a short recess in the meantime. Oh, yes, your excellency. As you say, your excellency. And one more thing. I want this knife, the murder weapon, examined for traces of poison. You will solicit the assistance of the Imperial University's medical department for the task. Understood? Meh. Many memo! Alright, damn. Many memo. To be continued. Down, 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 down. Alright. I need to get a drink of water. So we're just gonna switch over to the BRB screen. Boop. Alright, I'm back. We're going back. Ah, hello. Alright. Before we get back into it for real, I just want to get back to a part where there's like music playing. There we go. I'm so sorry, Susato. Okay. I did just sort of want to just chat for a little bit. I've been working on something. I'm trying to make a 3D model. Isn't that interesting? Isn't that fun? I still have a lot to learn about exactly what I want to do with this, but I think it could turn out really cool. But we'll have to see. We'll have to see. So keep your eyes out for that in the coming days. But if you join my Discord server, you can get a sneak peek. And we'll just have a quick promo for that. Alright. But with that in mind, let us continue. Ray. You have a strong sense of responsibility, I know. That's why you decided to shoulder the burden alone. No, that's not it at all. I was scared of my failure coming to light, that's all. So I hoped to retrieve the substance from the Englishwoman before anyone found out. Before the trial started, do you remember what she said, Susato? That you had no doubt in your mind about my innocence? That you'd stand by me to the last? I remember. And yet I didn't deserve your trust in me. I hid important details from you, Susato. I completely betrayed your faith in me. Hit me, Susato! I deserve it! No, in fact, throw me to the floor! No, that's too good for me as well! Drag me through the city streets! Acting kind of sussy, Ray. I'm no better, you know. Oh? Even though in my heart I knew that you'd pulled the knife blade from Miss Brett's back, there was just a brief moment when, in my mind, I doubted you. Susato! I'm sorry. After I stood here and promised you that I'd stand by you and always be on your side, I betrayed your faith in me, too. And as such, I failed you as a lawyer. Oh, no, no, no. I think the situation has taught both of you a valuable lesson. Placing your unbridled faith in another is no easy task. Yes, Father, that fact has certainly struck home. Which is why I can see more clearly now. So, Ray, yes? Can you find it in your heart to forgive me? Oh, Susato! You know you'll always be a gallant, dashing lawyer in my eyes now. Oh, Ray. Oh, Susato. Oh, Ray. Oh, Susato. Oh, Ray. Mwah, 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 mwah. Mwah, 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 mwah. I need to push this up. Yeah. Okay. I didn't know what was going on. The Englishwoman was sitting at the back of the hut, listening to what I was saying. Well, now, whatever do you mean? And then, a moment later, she suddenly got to her feet, before collapsing on the floor in front of me, with a knife in her back. That's right, just Miss Brett and myself. There was no one else. So I just don't understand how she could possibly have been stabbed like that. She was sitting at the back of the hut. The hut it's not a wall. There's actually a hole in it. Like, look at this. Look at this. Not only is it visible through this photograph that there's a hole in the hut, you can actually see it here. Though, by the looks of it, the photograph was actually taken from around here's abouts. But, like, look, that's where the knife went in. You can actually see it. It's just fucking tatami. You can just take it and spread it. It'll be alright. However it happened, and whatever really went on by the sea that day, I promise you that I'm going to prove everything you said you saw was true. Spoken like a true Mikotoba. Now, I think we should discuss what's coming up in the trial, don't you? We don't have much time. We must make sure we have our facts in order. Yes, I expect the poison is going to come under close scrutiny in the upcoming proceedings. Police should hopefully have identified it on the blade by now. The trouble is, it's a completely new laboratory synthesized blend of alkaloids. The police won't have any way of testing for it. Oh, I see. Yes, without this chemical reagent, it's impossible to detect the top... I sent a colleague of mine off with some earlier to deliver to police headquarters. I think perhaps you should have some as well, though. Just in case. It's German, so your knowledge of English is going to be of little help here, I'm afraid. Couldn't you just written medicine on it in Japanese? Then we'd all be able to read it. German is the international language of medicine, my dear. But yes, I can certainly see the merit in labeling the bottle in Japanese. Though I'm not sure medicine would be entirely appropriate. Can I test it? I want to test it. It's in the ink pen. It's in the ink pen. It's in the inkwell of the ink pen, of the fountain pen. What's the matter, Susato? You're suddenly very quiet. It's this newspaper article. Exclusive! Deadly poison stolen from Humei Medical Research Laboratory. I'm wondering how the information got out, given that it was a government secret. It was all the Englishwoman's doing. It was when the professor and Soseki-san were being interviewed at the laboratory. That so-called English lady swanned in and without any compunction said to Professor Mikotoba, "Oh, Professor, surely your guest would love to hear about your work on that substance there." It put me in a very awkward position, to be frank. But Soseki-san's curiosity had been piqued, so I had little choice but to give him a cursory introduction. So then, Soseki-san knew about the poison. And it's highly likely that the reporter who was writing up the story about us would have caught a glimpse of the toxin too. No, I don't remember the reporter being there. Indeed, he shouldn't have been. I very much doubt anyone would have wanted him there. Oh? A known criminal had been given permission by the authorities to bathe by the seaside. Soseki-san pointed out that inviting a reporter might be problematic, so the man was sent back to his office. Yet he obviously didn't go back. He secretly followed the party to the beach and took this very candid photograph. Then presumably he posted it anonymously to the police. Yes, that must be what happened. Alright, fucking... What's his name? Menimo? Defense Attorney Ryotaru Naruhodo. Yes! Ray has put her faith in me now and told me everything. So I can't let her down. I have to prove that what she's telling the court is true. I have to prove what really happened that day. Ba-ba-ba-ba. As we reconvene to continue the trial of Rei Membami. Before I address that question, Your Excellency, I have some very important news to share. Oh? During the recess, with a collaboration of Professor Mikotoba's laboratory at Humei University, the police re-examined the knife that was used to end Miss Giselle Brett's life. Excellent. I admire your rapid handling of the matter. Oh, too kind, Your Excellency, too kind. I was merely carrying out your instructions, of course. I had the reagent delivered to the police headquarters by rickshaw, so it would be there in good time. But judging by the man's swagger, I fear we might need to brace ourselves for the inevitable. And, Counsel, what were the results? This dagger, which was so cruelly used to end the life of the victim,
has no trace of poison anywhere along its blade. What? Are you sure about that? I would stake the reputation of the police on it. I'm the 3 agent. The test is extremely simple. They couldn't have made a mistake.
Yeah, let's just get to the point. Very well, officer. Bring in the witness. No trace of poison on the knife. But if that's really the case... I mean, she was poisoned. She had the meiosis. It was you? You're just fucking here, dude! Right-hand Menimo of the Show You News. I'm what people like to call a journo. What's a journo, Father? Do you know? It's simply a contraction of journalist. I'm there where the news breaks, putting pen to paper to catch those scoops when they're in print the next morning. They don't call me the hero of the Herald for nothing. The nice guy of news. Oh, so, it was you who took this photograph, was it? Well, what have we here? I'm sorry? Ooh, brace yourselves, people! Many Memos senses a scoop in the offing. Female student up to foul play defended by curiously handsome young lawyer in Supreme Court. Snap. The readers will laugh this. Yep, we'll send it all but full to the 72-point and 5-leg format for the Norming edition. Huh? Alright then. Let's start with your name. Oh, it's Ryotaro Naruto. Next, what made you want to become a lawyer? I wanted to reform our country's legal system, I suppose. Ryotaro has suddenly become very ambitious, I see. I just part Kazuma-sama's dream for a while. By the way, my name is Takatsuchi Auchi. Takatsuchi Auchi. How would I write that? How do I write that in hiragana? I'm thinking in okay. K. Nope, that's ku. K is... I don't know. I'm gonna go to Japan. I'm gonna be lost. I'm gonna be a fucking Gaikokujin. It's gonna suck. So-called dark horse of the Supreme Court. My objections strike fear in every defense lawyer's heart. No, the readers won't buy that. What? Yes. What this court demands to know is whether or not you were responsible for the taking of this picture. It was delivered anonymously to the Imperial Police Bureau only yesterday. Yeah, I wouldn't be a journal if I didn't click quick when you presented a scoop like that, now would I? Sometimes stories call out to me. Sometimes I have to chase them down, but either way, you've got to be fast. Fast like strong with a fast hand to write with. It's no good if you don't note it down, I always say. That's what I call my many memoism. Many memoism? Ah, yes, I remember your face. You met that day when you were interviewing myself and Soseki-san. Yes, right. That was me, Many Memo again. But you were supposed to be going back to the Show You news offices after our meeting. But the scoop is, I didn't. Because that Englishwoman's words had piqued my journalistic interest. Miss Brett's words. A criminal, left to do as she pleases, just because she happens to be a British citizen? It's horse dung! This country's judiciary is rotten to the core! The Supreme Court's rulings aren't worth the paper they're written on. The police are just imperial pawns! Stay your tongue, young man. These are complex political issues at play. Well, anyway. I quickly jotted down those words she said in my memo pad. Are you ready? I'll read it out. It's all here. Right here goes. I should like to go with everyone to see our country's coast. A serious criminal going on some junket. The people need to know about this. That's why I decided to sneak after them. To get the woman's story, so I can hammer her in the press. Do you mean to say that you did indeed witness it firsthand? The grim scene portrayed in this photograph?
Oh yes, I saw it with my very own Giorno eyes! From start to finish, through the viewfinder of my trusty camera! Thank you, Memo-san. You will now give a formal testimony before the court. You will state exactly what it is that you witnessed of the events surrounding Miss Brett's death. The beach hut was made of shoddy old reed screens, so there were plenty of gaps that I could see inside the room. The Englishwoman was sitting on a stool when the student girl came in and started arguing with her. Seconds later, the girl pulled out a knife, throwing the Englishwoman to the floor as she stabbed her in the back. My smoldering journal spirit burst into flames quick as a flash opened out my camera, ready to click. I pulled apart the rough weave of one of the screens and poked a lens through for the perfect shot. Something about that seems, fishy suspicious. And it was a breeze for me to poke my camera through and see the whole thing hotting up. Ignoring for the time being the appalling invasion of privacy involved, did you witness everything that happened from the moment the defendant entered the hut? Oh yes, I saw it. I saw the whole thing from start to finish. You see that you took the photograph through a gap in one of the screens? Luckily for me, they were pretty shoddily woven. I pulled up the reeds apart and thrust the lens of my camera through the gap. I would get away with it. Would I get away with it, or would I be seen? It was the gamble of a lifetime. Tenacity of purpose that's considered admirable in a journalist, I suppose. Run a risk one day, run a scoop the next. That's the minimalism of an... Fuck this guy. I hate this guy's fucking name. He's fucking me up. Many memoism, many memoism, many memo, many memoism, many memoism, many meno, many meno, many. I'm done for. My career as a streamer is over. The evidence and testimony are extremely compelling. No they ain't. No they ain't. Wonderful news, Your Excellency. Wonderful. A startling photograph. All the makings of an exceptional story for the reporter. Why then was the story never published? It seems clear to me that there are circumstances at play here that are yet to be understood. Ha! More pathetic excuses! Very well then, counsel. Proceed with your cross-examination. Yes, Your Excellency. There's more to this reporter than meets the eye. He's keeping something about this case very close to his chest. Unlike his suspenders. Yeah.
Hold it!
So you actually saw Mimbami-san entering the hut? Yep. And she was raging like my journo spirit. And the argument you mentioned. What was that about exactly? You stole it. I didn't steal it. That kind of thing. Talking about the poison, I suppose. The student girl walked right up to the Englishwoman and really started laying into her. I mean, if she'd laid into her anymore, there would have been eggs! Man should have been an author. His descriptive talents are wasted on journalism. But the student's rantings fell on deaf ears. Like a Japanese person listening to English for the first time. You really gotta work on his similes first, though, to be honest. Anyway, the point is, that woman in the dock was mightily angry. And her temper finally got the better of her, it seems. Dear me. Which was the climactic moment that I caught on film.
Hold it!
Hold it. That's bullshit. Ooh, simple plan. Thank you. Can I have that in evidence? Right you are. It's all here in my many memo pad. When I first peered into the hut, I'm sure that the Englishwoman was on this stool at the back of the hut here. Yes, the accused's own testimony confirmed that. She just sat at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly, is what I have noted down. It's my turn to testify now. Try not to interrupt. Ugh. Ooh. But then it's self-defense, then. What you describe as a grim crime indeed. Never sugarcoat the truth. That's what many memoism says. By the way, Many Memo-san, whilst you were watching that terrible scene unfold before your eyes through the gap in the screen, did it not occur to you to try to prevent the tragedy, rather than capture it on film? Journalists have to be observers. We can't get involved. That's our raison d'etre. Raison d'etre. I can't speak French. So you didn't converse with Miss Brett at all? Obviously not. An observer always remains on the outside looking in. And that's something to be proud of, is it? Your Excellency, if I may. I think the witness's last expertly phrased statement should perhaps be added to his formal testimony. I will grant the defense's request. Many Memo-san, you will supplement your formal testimony with the aforementioned statement. Well, nihilism is the foundation of many memoism, but I'll gladly prove that my words aren't meaningless. And how do you explain? Your fucking pen! Many Memo-san, until now I've had a firm belief that newspapers are in the business of uncovering and publishing the truth. You're spot on there. The press doesn't lie, which is why I'm proud to wear the emblem of the Show You News on my arm. In a way, that's more Many Memoism. Sadly, though, it seems the journalists who write for those papers don't always share the same passion for the truth. What are you suggesting with those recriminatory words, Counsel? Many Memo-san, do you recognize this fountain pen? Ah! This pen was found at the scene of Miss Brett's death. In fact, the murdered victim was gripping it in her hand as she died. What are you? If you look at the barrel of the pen, you'll notice that its owner's initials are engraved up there. R.M. Yes, thank you for bringing that up, Counsel. The initials of the accused, Ray Membani. Is it a coincidence, I wonder? That your initials are also R.M.? No! Raiten Many Memo. R.M. That's horse dung! That's bullshit, you fucking... Can't you see? One of the central tenets of Many Memoism is being a pencil user. And yet, as the court will clearly be able to see, on your right hand, there is a very obvious blue ink stain. It would appear that you must have rather carelessly left it somewhere recently. Your favorite fountain pen, that is. Horsey horse dung! Many Memo-san, is it not the case that before she died, you met with Giselle Brett in that beach hut? Why should you listen to this absurd nonsense? It's nothing but another excuse. Exactly. Show You News will stand behind me all the way. I deny everything. There must be as many people with the initials RM as there are stars in the night sky. The defense has neither the time nor the inclination to count every star in the sky. And there is no need anyway, because this pen has more to tell. Yes, there is another clue. A clue that undeniably proves who its owner really is. In that case, Counsel, the defense will now show the court where this alleged clue lies. Of course, Your Excellency. The Show You News emblem. I forgot that I have to present it specifically and not just hit space to examine it. As well as the initials, there's also an emblem on this fountain pen. An emblem that you will of course recognize, Many Memo-san. Goodness me, it's the emblem of the Show You News! In other words, the owner of this pen... Oh, it's the Show You News. It Show You the News, okay. Is an employee of the Show You News, whose initials are RM. Suddenly, the stars in the night sky don't seem so numerous, do they? Well, Many Memo-san, how do you respond? No! Order! Order! Explain yourself, witness! So, this is how the mighty Supreme Court works, is it? Using coercive tactics to have well-meaning citizens reveal harmless secrets. I've used nothing but honest tactics. Alright then, fine. I won't try to hide it anymore. Yes, not long before that grim tragedy unfolded. I, a Show You News reporter on behalf of the public, conducted an interview with the Englishwoman. An interview? You never mentioned this before? When exactly was this? As I said, it was before that evil little student girl showed her face in the hut. It couldn't have lasted more than 2 or 3 minutes. That's all. It was just a brief exchange. But it came to nothing. And as we many memoists say, the people don't pay their dues for unworthy news. However insignificant you deem it to be, this court cannot overlook the meeting between yourself and the victim. Tell us what happened, asshole. Alright, but on one condition. Condition? In all good conscience, I couldn't speak out alone about this. You need to call back the earlier witness, Soseki Natsume-san! Soseki-san? Oh yes, according to my notes here, that man has a secret of his own, and brace yourselves. It's not a harmless one, it's big! What? Many Memoism states that one man's secret is every other man's front page story. Alright, fine, whatever. Soseki-san, hiding something? I asked the Englishwoman for an interview, but she declined, so I left the hut without making a fuss. Then, watching secretly from outside, I saw the woman being stabbed and the other witnesses come running. The detective realized that the victim still had a pulse, so he ran off to fetch help. That's when this writer man here asked the woman a very significant question. But he didn't say anything about that in his testimony, which is why many Menoism demands I reveal it now. Shrimp interesting. And when she did, you decided to ask her a question? That's, true, yes. He did! And that's not all. The woman gave him a very definite answer. An answer that incriminates the accused! This is preposterous. Why am I only hearing about this now? You yokel hack, damn. Hold up, I'm gonna chew some ice. Delicious. But she could no longer speak. She was barely conscious, even. Absolutely, Your Excellency. Yeah.
Hold it!
What question? What exactly did he say? Well now, you should hear that from the horse's mouth, I think. Don't you, Mr. Writer Man? Ugh! Out with it, you yokel hack! What did you say to her? What did you say to the dying English woman? Well, in truth, I've been catching crabs at the water's edge and building castles in the sand, you see. Well, the seaside is a place to be at leisure, I suppose, even for a grown man. But then all of a sudden, from that little beach hut, a young girl's panic-stricken cries for help pierced the air. Ray. I ran up to the beach to see what was happening, to find the defendant leaning over the collapsed victim. As soon as Inspector Hosonaga saw him spread on the ground, he sprinted off to get help. And then, just a moment later, I heard a faint moan. A moan from the dead Englishwoman. I nearly jumped out of my skin. But what did you ask her, Soseki-san? I asked her, who did this to you? Don't protract this any longer. How did the woman respond? She didn't. She said nothing in response. But... When in the stand, you will answer the questions asked of you unambiguously. Now, without evasion or reticence, I demand that you amend your testimony. I will! Asked her who did this to you, but she never replied.
Hold it!
She tried to figure out who the culprit was. He who asks a question is a fool for a minute. He who does not remains a fool forever. And having been labeled a criminal twice during my time in Great Britain, I was quick to make up my mind. Better to be a fool for a minute than remain a fool in prison forever! However, you've indicated that the victim failed to respond. Is that correct? I know why. I know why the Englishwoman said nothing. She was ignoring me because of my stupid mustache, because I'm Japanese! Oh dear, Soseki-san really has developed a dislike for the English, it seems. Having read the report on his time in Great Britain, I can't say I'm surprised at his xenophobia. But the Englishwoman didn't ignore you at all. Did she, Mr. Writer-man? Well, yes, alright. She did respond in a manner of speaking, I suppose. She just lifted a trembling finger and pointed in the direction of the defendant.
Hold it!
Uh-oh. Uh-oh. And yet... Oh?
Objection!
Yeah, we can say that again. Igiyari! Objection! Ha ha ha! The headline's writing itself! We just have to do it.
There must be an answer to that question. No, we have an answer. I have an answer, at least. I know how!
Objection!
Objection! Your Excellency, I respectfully ask you to postpone your adjudication for the time being. Oh? To what end, Counsel? The defense would like to present the court with an alternative theory. An alternative theory that it can explain who the victim was actually trying to implicate with her dying gesture. None exists. There was someone else present at the scene who could have committed this crime. What? And the victim, Miss Brett, tried to reveal who it was to those around her at the time by mustering all her remaining strength and pointing a trembling finger in the killer's direction. This is fiction, fantasy! Very well, as you seem so sure of yourself, Counsel, I'm prepared to hear your alternative theory. So, young Ryotaro Naruhodo. Oh, right, that's me. Outside the hut, at the back of the hut.
Take that!
I'm a Naruhodo now. The true culprit who fatally stabbed Miss Brett was concealed in this location here. Are you mad, Counsel? You're suggesting the culprit was outside the hut? What? Order, order, order! But student lawyer Naruhodo-san Esquire, that makes no sense at all! You've just pointed out the exact spot where I was hiding to get my scoop snap! But I didn't see any suspicious individuals loitering about, I can swear to that! Obviously, if the culprit had been outside the hut, there's no way that he or she could have stabbed the victim who was inside the hut. Actually, Prosecutor Ouchie, there is a way. And, in point of fact, the defense can provide evidence strongly suggesting that this is precisely where Miss Brett was killed. You're bluffing! You're bluffing, you yokel! The defense's assertion is clearly too fantastical for the court to comprehend. You will need to give us more guidance, Counsel. No piece of evidence corroborates your theory that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut. Is it the... Let me examine the knife, because I haven't yet. Ah yes, this must be the victim's blood. Blood is never a pretty sight, is it? I'm going to fight the urge to run it under a hot tap and get it clean. I think this is something else, Father. Nothing else interesting about the blade? Okay. The fact that this photograph exists, I think.
Take that!
Well, I've presented it now, but I haven't the first idea why it chose this piece of evidence. Okay. Alright, damn. Fuck. Alright, okay, it's the photograph that shows that there was a slot in the back.
Take that!
The original photographic print of the crime scene?
Objection!
Objection! Do you take us for fools? There's no hint of any such thing. I'm not sure that everyone present would agree. Someone, at least, appears to have noticed what it is that I'm referring to.
Take that!
Look closely just here. In the screen at the back of the hut, you can see the effects of a blade having been forced through the reeds.
No, I can't. I can't see any such thing.
It's true that the hut in question had 4 walls as you'd expect. However, by parting the reeds, a knife blade could easily penetrate them. This is extraordinary. Yes. The true culprit actually stabbed the victim from outside the beach hut. And of everyone present at the scene, there is only one person who could have done that. Only one person who was directly outside the hut when Miss Brett was killed. Right, and Mini Memo-san! It could only have been you! No! Objection! This preposterous idea leaves me almost speechless. Just look at the photograph again. The victim lies almost exactly in the center of the beach hut, does she not? Are we to assume, as part of this farcical scenario, that the assailant was a knife thrower? No, of course not. We're not? If you recall the testimony of the defendant about the events just before the victim's death, inside the beach hut, I confronted Miss Brett. But she just sat on a stool at the back of the hut, smiling sweetly at me as if she knew she was untouchable. A stool. Have another look at the photograph. The slit in the reed screen would align perfectly with the back of a person who was sitting on that stool. My word! So, in fact, the victim was killed while sitting on that stool by a stab wound to her back delivered through the reed screen. Ah! Having been attacked, Miss Brett rose to her feet instinctively, but then, unable to speak, she collapsed onto the floor in the middle of the hut, before the defendant, Membami-san's appalled eyes. And that, Your Excellency, is the truth of what happened on the beach that day.
It's not the full truth. There's still the matter of the poison.
By your silence, Mini Memo-san, I take it that you don't deny the charge?
This is absurd!
That will do! It would appear that we have a tacit admission of guilt from the witness. Accordingly, this court has successfully established the truth of this matter, which means that the defendant, Membami-san, is innocent of the crime. No. No, this can't be. Yeah, no, it's not. It's not done yet. What of my growth? My growth of hope. It wasn't all an apparition. I can't accept this. I won't. I see no reason for the continuance of this trial. I will therefore move to conclude proceedings by delivering my final verdict and— Oh, hold it! There we go, finally.
Ha! 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 Well, this is all very convenient. This is how the highest court in our mighty empire delivers justice, is it? Suppressing well-meaning citizens' freedom to speak and branding them as criminals. But we've established that the victim was stabbed from outside the hut, through the reed screen walls.
And no one but you was in place at the time to have his hand on the hilt of the blade. It's a perfectly logical deduction.
So, your argument hinges on the location of whoever stabbed the Englishwoman, does it? Well, it seems a little irrelevant now. Irrelevant? Where she was stabbed, how she was stabbed? It doesn't matter. I mean, whether she was stabbed at all makes no difference, if you think about it. After all, this trial's already shown the whole thing hinges on something else.
He is gonna bring up the poison? What are you talking about?
Brace yourself, little man. I'm talking about the fact that everything's changed. Because of the dirt you dug up.
What? Enough obscurity. Explain yourself, witness.
What's to explain? I'm talking about the poison, of course.
The poison? Let's ask the professor for a comment on the situation, shall we? I understand that the deadly poison you were developing was stolen from your laboratory, correct? And it's been shown that this poison was administered to the victim, Miss Brett. Is that right?
That is correct. Unusual constriction of the victim's pupils are a sure sign that this particular poison was used.
I see. So, presumably that means that the victim already had the poison in her body before she was stabbed.
Given that her pupils were clearly constricted, it seems highly likely, yes. If she had been dead already, the poison could not have circulated in her blood.
Ah, how refreshing to hear the argument of a metropolitan mind. Precisely! It matters not a jot who stabbed whom and whose back with whose blade. Because, quite simply, the Englishwoman's life was taken not by the knife, but by the poison!
Objection!
But that can be explained by the poison being on the blade, as I already...
Objection!
Nah, but we already tested the blade. It doesn't have any poison on it. Is that about right? No, because you broke into the poison lab, took the poison with the pen, and then you dropped it in her wine glass, and then she drank it, and then she died from drinking something poison as poetic justice. How, in that case, did the poison enter the victim's body?
There is an undeniably obvious answer to that. The lady most likely imbibed it.
You mean she drank it?
That's what I said, isn't it? I can't believe you're so stupid. This is what I get for having a daughter.
A bottle of carbonated water and a glass had been knocked into the sandy floor of the beach hut. Poison could have been slipped into either. Well, what do you know? Look at those dashing eyes. This will make a great front page shot. Hey, why the bewitching stare? After all, I'm the last person you should be looking at. It'd make no sense at all that I poisoned the woman, wouldn't it? I mean, that's been established already. Established? What are you talking about? Don't tell me you've forgotten. That's a little hard to believe, given that the person who established it was you. Ooh, let me capture those wide eyes. This is prime press fodder, this is. No, you went inside the hut. You claim it to be impossible that you were the one responsible for administering the poison to the victim. You explain to the court in your testimony the basis upon which you make such a claim. I'm a journo and I'm a man. I've never tried to run or hide from anything in my life. And I'm not about to start now. That's because that's many-memoism! Yeah, no. You murderer. That's... I don't know a lot about law, but I have watched a lot of videos about law on the internet. If you... one of the laws in America is... Or one tenet of law in America is that if you think you are committing a crime, you are guilty of that crime. If you shoot somebody and you kill them, or if you shoot somebody with the intent to kill them, but they had already died of a heart attack in their sleep, you're still guilty of murder because you went up to somebody and shot them. If you buy a pound of flour from somebody thinking it's drugs, you're still guilty of drug dealing and possession because you had the intent of getting that, of doing that crime. Not sure that, not saying that that's a perfectly good thing and that it happens perfectly well at all times, but you stabbed her thinking you would kill her. If you are the one who stabbed Miss Brett in the back through the read screen, you can blame this miserable country of ours. A country that bows to the pressure of foreign powers and lets murderers walk free. What kind of future can a country like that have? That's why I did it. I did what our pathetic leaders didn't have the guts to do. Slap bang in the middle of that charming lady's back. I plunged a blade of sweet justice right in there. Hey, appreciate it, I guess. I feel really, really awful about giving false information in my testimony before, but as it turns out, There was somebody else who had it in for the victim and got to her before me. That's right, you guessed it. That pretty little student girl. Now there's a woman after my own heart. You're implicating Ray again. She's the one who gave the poison to this woman and ended her pitiful existence. And suddenly, snap! This journo here is off the hook. I appreciate that. If witness had administered the poison himself, he need only have waited for it to take effect. Subsequently, stabbing the victim in the back would have been entirely nonsensical. And therefore, this reporter had nothing to do with the poisoning. Yes, it's all quite logical. That's right, it is. Logical and true. I'm glad you've all seen the light. Justice at last! This is unbelievable. And after I'd made so much progress in proving his guilt, is he going to get away with it now? Think of Kazuma-sama and Naruhodo-san. They never stop looking for a way forward until the judge's final gavel. That was my final gavel. You're all guilty. Yes, Your Excellency. Let me just take a look through the court record and see. Fatal in minutes. So you still maintain that you didn't give the poison to the victim? Obviously, that'd be like putting a belt on your trousers when you were already wearing braces like these. The accused administered the poison, following which this witness stabbed the victim. An unforgivable act, certainly, but not one of murder. The crime rests on the accused's shoulders. That is how the law works, you see. Yokel. Who knows? You may even learn something here today. 2 consecutive attempts on her life in the space of minutes? Quite a day for the victim. Do something that evil and you've got it coming. That's how the law works. The law of reckoning! That's not the kind of law this court upholds. You'll reiterate why you were compelled to stab the victim then, witness?
Hold it!
No, it doesn't. So, you do admit that you had murderous intentions toward Miss Brett then? Ha! The woman's very existence offended my sense of justice. Your sense of... he's claiming some sort of righteous indignation? She was pure evil! A cold-blooded killer who committed murder right here on our empire's soil. But did our good-for-nothing government do anything? Not a chance, so I had to step in. Fly the flag of justice, put things right for people. Yes, it was my civic duty, that's what drove me to do it. So, in summary, murderous intentions then. Whatever you want to call it, the point is this. That Englishwoman was a blight. So I had to do what was right, for society. Yet a real wrong was done by the student girl in the dock, a crime for which she must pay. Obviously, because the poisoning was nothing to do with me at all. Take a look. I'm gonna see. When I heard the student girl and that pompous English murderer arguing, it got my goat. So he must have taken the pen off and got his hand covered in ink when he was trying to get the poison. Okay, that's interesting. About what happened in that restaurant 9 months ago. No, that's not what they were arguing about. Yes, John H. Wilson, a professor of medicine, invited here from England by Professor Mikotoba, no less. Right, but the Englishwoman just cheered. Her case was to be heard by the British consulate court in Shanghai. However, there is little doubt that she would simply have been acquitted and sent back to her homeland a free woman. He was eating that student girl up inside. You could see it. I really felt for her. Oh. 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 Is it Ray? I can't. I can't stand here and listen to this tripe. Ray, young girl, you stand accused here. You can't just blurt out whenever you feel like it. No, you can't. Sorry, but I'm in the middle of some very important testimony here. Just keep quiet and listen. But this awful man is making all of this up. Shisato, please. You have to make them listen.
Return to the dock at once, Membami-san. We're in the middle of a cross-examination.
Your Excellency, please, I implore you. That journalist is clearly not a trustworthy witness. Exactly, he's a filthy, rotten, black-hearted, bigoted, dirty, great peeping Tom! Whoa, take it easy there. Please, I really think the court should hear what the defendant has to say. Your Excellency, I see no need whatsoever to entertain the accused's remarks.
I will grant the request of the defense.
But, Your Excellency!
This is likely to be the final cross-examination of these proceedings. As such, I believe it would be ill-advised to stifle the defense's obvious concerns. So, whilst recognizing that this contravenes regular protocol, I hereby call upon the defendant to speak.
Oh. Thank you so much, Your Excellency! It was nothing to do with Dr. Wilson. We were discussing the stolen poison.
Hold it!
The stolen poison that killed the victim, you mean? I suspected her of being the one to steal it. I mean, just think about how she killed Dr. Wilson.
That's true. Additionally, Miss Brett certainly had knowledge of the new poison. But surely it would be no easy task to steal a highly secret toxin being developed for the government. Indeed, all visitors to the laboratory are thoroughly searched when they leave. Even if a thief managed to avoid being seen by myself or a colleague, getting the poison out would be very difficult.
That's true. I pestered Professor Mikotoba until he agreed to show me the poison when I visited his laboratory. But as I left, I was searched from top to tail.
Miss Brett rather bluntly revealed the existence of the toxin we've been developing, you see. And since Oseki-san expressed such an interest in it, I felt unable to refuse. Obviously, I gave nothing away other than the fact that it was an extremely potent substance.
I'm very ashamed of myself. It's just that I've had a singularly terrible experience with the deadly poison. I wanted to look my old enemy in the eye! Surely you can understand that! To find out if my suspicions were true, I confronted Miss Brett about the poison. I told her that if there were to be an incident involving it somehow, it wouldn't just be the university. The military would be dragged into it. The whole government, even. It would be a complete disaster. And how did Miss Brett respond to your concerns? She just curled those beautiful lips of hers and said she didn't know the first thing about it. In English, actually.
Ah, yes. Many Memo-san. One small question, if you don't mind.
I do mind. Can't you see I'm busy?
Clearly you were outside the beach hut listening in whilst the defendant and Miss Brett were conversing. Presumably, then, it was you who wrote this article about what you'd heard? Exclusive. Deadly poison stolen from UMA Medical Research Laboratory. The story was published in this morning's edition of Shoyu News. The details are too accurate for it to have been written by anyone else.
Sorry, don't know what you're talking about. Yes, look at this! The entire article is almost what I said to Miss Brett, word for word! Ah!
Well, Many Memo-san.
As a journo, and as a citizen of a free country, I don't have to reveal my sources. That's a founding principle of Many Memoism.
He wrote that article and he based it on what he overheard from outside the hut. Outside the Pizza Hut.
So that's what it was all about. You were trying to cover up the fact that you were listening in. That's why you came up with that stinking story about me arguing with her. Shut up! My stories never stink! Look, whatever you say, little girl, it doesn't alter the facts. Your Excellency, there's something I want to say, and I want it to go on record.
Very well, again.
The point is, if you'd poison someone, there'd be no reason to then go and stab the person as well.
Alright. I have to present something here, but I don't know what specifically. Let's try this.
Objection!
Hey, it worked. I was thinking that might be. Well, I can think of one reason. What? But before I explain, I'd like you to confirm something for the court. Did you glean all the information for this newspaper article from what you overheard outside the hut? Of course he did. There can be no question of that. After all, when we were all in the laboratory together, all we were told was that it was a terrible toxin. And there's one more important fact to consider. According to the witness, Membami-san's verbal attack against the victim began as soon as she entered the hut. In other words, it would have been impossible for her to have slipped the poison into Miss Brett's drink.
Objection!
Where are you going with this, counsel? Memo-san has made it quite clear that he observed every single thing that happened in the beach hut. If the defendant had somehow found an opportunity, this man would have seen it. Ah! Which means that Miss Brett couldn't have imbibed the poison whilst the defendant was present. In fact, it must have been administered to her before Membami-san entered the hut. Yes, very articulately put. When I walked into the hut, I immediately started to press Miss Brett about the poison. At which point, Memo-san overheard some worrying information. Worrying information? What worrying information? The information which he subsequently included in his newspaper article, namely, that the poison was being developed in strict secrecy and that it couldn't be readily obtained. Absolutely. In fact, that's quite an understatement. The only possible place it could come from is my lab. And furthermore, anyone afflicted by the poison would exhibit telltale signs in death. The extreme constriction of the pupils. Yes, it's quite stark when you see it. There are other poisons that show similar symptoms, but not among new substances that are undetectable. In other words, it would be clear that the victim's life had been ended by the use of this particular poison, which would reduce the number of suspects to only a handful of people. Ah! Everyone in my laboratory is aware of the unique properties of the toxin we've been developing. None of them would be foolish enough to attempt to use it for some nefarious deed. Membami-san being no exception. Therefore, we can conclude that whoever administered this unique poison to the victim was a layperson unaware of its telltale properties. In other words, someone like you. Right-hand Memo! Yeah! It was you who stole the poison from the laboratory that day, and it was you who administered it to the unwitting victim. But you quickly realized that was a terrible mistake, because the poison caused such unusual symptoms and was so traceable. As you listened in from the far side of the beach hut's thin walls, you learned of these facts, but you'd already given the victim the poison at that point. It was too late, so you hatched a plan to disguise your mistake. A plan that involved stabbing the victim back through the read screen.
Objection!
But what good could that possibly do? Isn't it obvious, counsel? The plan was to kill Miss Brett before the poison could take effect. Once in the blood, the poison causes the onset of pupil constriction, but he had hoped to precipitate the victim's death before that happened, hadn't he? Exactly. Because without any revealing signs of the new secret poison's use, no one would have ever suspected. This is extraordinary! Yes, the effects of the poison meant it would be too easily identified, so the killer had to mask its use, which he attempted to do by plunging a knife in the middle of the victim's back!
Objection!
Nope. Order! Does the prosecution have a counter-argument it wishes to put forward? Well, there are a number of... yes! I counter completely!
Objection!
The prosecution's evasive response clearly shows that in much the same way as he nurtures the remains of his top-knot, he is clinging to lost hope. Lost hope? Oh! Hold it! Ah! You pathetic, useless, fallen samurai! Fallen? Who are you calling fallen? My burgeoning growth is on the rise. I don't need a counter-argument? What? What are you talking about? It should be blatantly obvious. I stole the poison, you say. Gave it to the victim, you say. Stabbed her, you say. Lots of fine theories. But I don't need a counter-argument because you don't have an argument yourself. Where's your evidence? Yes, you make it all sound so plausible, don't you? But without evidence, it means nothing. Whereas I base my news on facts! Facts? What do you mean? Explain yourself. I don't know what those are. I've never heard of a fact. Many memo. The power of the printed word. Right now we have to prove that he stole the poison by getting it into his pen. You put it in your pen, you put it in your pen. No, you put it in your pen. I write many memo. I write many memo. No, you did. Ah, no! It's so powerful of an argument that I can break down in 2 seconds as soon as you let me. He stole it and used it to kill. And if that's the case, as you've identified, the poison itself is the definitive evidence we need. Because whoever stole it from the laboratory that day is the true culprit here. What's your point, you annoyingly handsome country bumpkin? My point is this. There is one way that you, Many Memo-san, could have stolen the poison that day. Ah. I've heard enough verbal conjecture now, thank you. What the court must be shown is evidence. You put it in your pen. The proof, Your Excellency, is this fountain pen. Ah! A fountain pen? How can that possibly be relevant? These magical pens somehow seem to have enough ink to write many thousands of kanji characters. I believe they arrived in our country for the first time some 15 years ago now. Bah! I swear by a weasel hair calligraphy brush and nothing else. These newfangled pens are merely a fad. Well, as a forward-thinking man of words, obviously I love my fountain pen. Stuck a soup cone of sumptuous ink in one's work is washed with words in the blink of an eye. That's right. Fountain pens have a small reservoir in the barrel, into which ink is sucked up through the nib of the pen in order to write with later. What does all this talking of sucking up ink have... Ah! And just as it's possible to suck ink up into the reservoir, it's also possible to eject it through the nib again, of course. My word, can this really be? Well, Many Memo-san? When you saw the deadly poison before your eyes in the laboratory that day, you used your fountain pen, your very lifeblood, to steal some of it, didn't you? By siphoning the poison up through the nib and into the pen's reservoir. Gah!
Objection!
Da, 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 da. We've heard that there were procedures in place to prevent thefts like this from the laboratory. But would anyone have thought to look inside a fountain pen of all places? No, I'm a little ashamed to say that for fear of offending our guests, such a detailed search would not have been conducted. Well, this is quite startling, I must say. I remind the court that this pen was found in the clutches of the victim when she died. In other words, it was dropped at the scene by Many Memo-san. So the crucial question is, when exactly was the pen dropped? Are you suggesting? The natural conclusion is that in your haste to act whilst the victim was distracted for a moment, you dropped the pen after you emptied the poison from it into her glass.
Objection!
There could be any number of alternative explanations. For example, the witness could have been using his pen to write down details of his conversation with the victim. And when shocked by one of her outrageous answers, the pen fell from his quivering hand.
Objection!
No, that can't be. If it was, how do you explain why the pen was devoid of ink? What? As you can see for yourself if you examine the evidence, there would appear to be no ink present in the reservoir. What newspaper reporter goes to interview someone with nothing in his pen? No! The pen was dropped after the poison that filled its reservoir had been emptied into the victim's glass. Witness, what do you have to say in your defense? So this is how our modern justice system works, is it? So what if the ink in my pen runs dry? So what if my pencils snap? Oh, I can always claw my way back into the game. I have plenty in reserve. Yeah! You claim I sucked the poison up into my pen? That's wild speculation, nothing more. If you thought you could bring down a fine upstanding citizen with a trick like that, think again! It looks as though it's going to take one final decisive blow to finish this matter. As I see it, the situation is now very simple.
It rests upon whether or not this witness did indeed steal the poison on the day in question. And therefore, it all depends upon whether or not the defense can prove that he did with evidence.
Objection!
Many Memo-san, this is how our modern justice system works. What? In the courtroom, evidence is everything. Something you would do well to remember. Because we are well past the point of speculation at this stage, I assure you. Present the affirmationed evidence. This is it then. This will be the final piece in the puzzle.
Take that!
Take that! Counsel, what is that bottle? This bottle contains the unique chemical reagent that can identify the poison in question. Ah!
Yes, that poison is an entirely new synthesis of alkaloids developed by my colleagues and I. It would be impossible to detect traces of it by any other method.
Or, from another perspective, simply with this chemical reagent, anybody at all could check for traces of the poison. A reagent? What? One drop of the content of this bottle on the tip of your fountain pen, Many Memo-san, is all it will take to solve this case beyond all reasonable doubt. No, you can't. I won't. Your crimes are bad enough, but at least no one to admit defeat. Your Excellency, your defense requests permission to carry out the test on the fountain pen at once. Yeah. This isn't my fault! The Empire drove me to do this! Trying to hold its head high as a civilized nation, but bowing its head to every foreign power's whim, I took up arms to the front without every hand! I fought tirelessly on the battlefield of all justice, righteousness... Susato, with me! I'm here! Combo attack! Did I do it right? That was a Susato takedown, wasn't it? Not quite. That was a Ryotaro takedown. Oh, shit! Yeah! Hell yeah! The instant the first drop of the rage touched the nib of this fountain pen, it was clear to everyone present. I wish I could see it, though. When I saw it there in the lab, the poison, the devil got hold of me, and I decided to do it on a whim. I excused myself and emptied all the ink down the sink in the bathroom, washing the reservoir out carefully. And then you waited for an opportunity to suck up some of the poison, didn't you? Into your fountain pen. Yes, that's right. Answer me one thing, Many Memo-san. Why did you steal it? For what purpose? Isn't it obvious? To find out what it was made of and expose it in an article. I mean, it was a secret project after all, too juicy for a journal like me to pass up. Then why did the Englishwoman end up dead? I went into that hut intending to quiz her on her situation, that's all. As a reporter. A known killer, enjoying full freedom. Evading justice by leaving the country. I told her what I thought about it. And she just laughed in my face! Oh, what's this? A Far Eastern caveman purporting to practice journalism. Really, you must learn the difference between reporting and listening at doorways, you ignorant plebeian. What did you call me? This country, with its pretensions to a justice system, to a free press, it's really very depressing. You see our superior ways in the West, yet you lack the mental capacity to emulate them. Get out of here, you oaf. Get out and crawl back into the cave you came from. That's what I remembered. About the deadly poison I happened to have in my pen at the time. What a terrible tale. In my head, I knew I should just get out of there as quickly as possible, but I couldn't. I couldn't let her get away with what she'd done, when she clearly had no remorse at all. And I suppose it was my journo spirit getting all fired up. Oh, I'm depressed that I did a murder.
I'd like to ask you something. Yes? You often talk about justice. But surely as a journalist, you could have used other means to deliver the justice you sought. And there's no justice in the press. Sorry? After that trial 9 months ago, I kept digging and digging to find out what had happened in that courtroom. And finally, I discovered the truth. It was a cover-up, that's what it was! A cover-up? What do you mean? I would remind you of your position, witness. Be careful of what you say. Oh, come on! Doesn't it strike you as strange? We're suddenly not allowed to convict a foreign national? Consular jurisdiction should never have come into it! And yet that puffed-up Englishwoman was going to sail away into the sunset, a free woman! The only possible explanation is that behind the scenes, some deal had gone down between Britain and Japan! What sort of deal? I'd done my research, dug up all the dirt. It was all ready to be published. But you know what happened? The editor just tore the article up! He came under pressure from the government, you mean? If our government is going to let criminals walk free, if they're going to crush the free press, then what choice do I have but to see that justice is done myself? Let's not forget, Memo-san, that you committed murder yourself and you tried to lay the blame at the defendant's door. I'm sorry, but you're no better than Giselle Brett. Oh. The truth is, you have no right to talk about justice at all! I suppose. It would appear that we have reached a conclusion in this trial at last. Counsel for the defense, Ritaro Naruhodo. Oh! Ah, yes. Sorry, Your Excellency. Just musing in a manly way here. It's almost unbelievable that this is your first experience of the Supreme Court. It was an excellent performance. In truth, it very much reminded me of your cousin's exploits. Oh, Naruhodo-san. Ryonosuke, you mean? The way he handled the trial 9 months ago, and the way you handled this one, gives me hope that we are genuinely entering a new era of justice in this land. That's very flattering, Your Excellency. Hearing the defense you put forward today made me feel most keenly that the future of our justice system will be forged by you and your contemporaries. Thank you. So, Prosecutor Ouchi, do you have any final thoughts? No! Don't do it! No, don't do it, Ouchi! No! I, Takatsuchi of the Ouchi clan, have been bested by a callow youth not once now, but twice. If there was any shred of my former self left, it has withered and died here today. Gosh, your journey to cultural enlightenment sure took a while, didn't it? Silence! Rather than living on in shame, I will end it all now with this blade. For that is the true path to Ouchiism! Ouchiism? One hopes that's the only way in which he'll be modeling himself after the witness. Sprig of my topknot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Takatsuchi. Sprig of my topknot, the time is right for farewell. Hope is lost forever. Yep, that counts. Hope is lost forever. Hope is lost forever. As long as you say ever as one syllable. Never in my years have I seen a more beautiful sight. A moment of silence. Truly, an honorable man. Now, in regards to the defendant, Rei Membami-san. Yes, Your Excellency. I have reached my final verdict. I hereby find you
not guilty! Da 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 da! Yeah! 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 Hell yeah. It's over. My heart is still pounding in my chest, though. It's all I can do just to stay standing. Lawyers have such great responsibility, such great burden to bear. Don't they, Naruhodo-san? Susato! Susato! Thank you so much! You were so dashing in there! Ray and Father! Honestly, I'm so touched by everything you've... Oh no, I think I'm going to cry! It wasn't easy, but together, we made it. I was on the verge of tears at the end too. The only reason I'm still here is because of you. Oh no, I can't take all the credit. It took courage to tell the truth in there. You did wonderfully, Ray. So I would have to say that the congratulations belong to you. Susato, don't be so standoffish! We're friends, equals, and the trial's over, so no more of this formal super humility nonsense. It's time to celebrate with swagger, to throw caution to the wind. Caution to the... what? I'm the great defense lawyer, Ryutaro Naruhodo, and I'm taking you out to a milk bar tomorrow! Or something. Right, I see. I'll, think about it, Ray. At any rate, we really knocked the wind out of that horde, man, and it felt so good. Yes, it was satisfying. It really was. Isn't there anybody else we could throw together? I hope you're not looking at me, Ray. Oh, my goodness. No, of course not. Of course not. Ah, there it is at last. Ray's lovely smile. Because I love her, because we're best friends and I love her. You fought for your friend to the last. As your father, I'm extremely proud of you. Defense attorney, Ryutaro Naruhodo. Thank you, but I couldn't have done it without your help. Anyway, it's time to bid farewell to Ryutaro, I think. I shall miss him in a way, but it's back to Susato Mikotoba now. So, I'll never see him again then? What a terrible shame. What is happening? Ah, Soseki-san and Inspector Hosonaga. I do hope you've been keeping well. Is that really you? Yes, I had to change my appearance for, well, obvious reasons, I hope. But it's me, Susato Mikotoba. Don't! So dashing, so divine. No! Doubly dashing! Yes, and devilishly divine! Just look at you! Girls dressing up as guys really do be getting everyone's shit questioned, huh? I had no idea, Mr. Sato-san Esquire-S, that you were low-cum student Naruhodo-san Esquire's cousin! Astonishingly, astoundingly, ace attorney! Poor Soseki-san. So confused. So fucking stupid. I still remember the first time I met him, and he was also so confused and stupid. And now he seems to have earned himself great fame as an author. I'm stunned. That's a truly impressive disguise. Even I had no idea, and I'm Chief Inspector of the Police Bureau. Who came up with Mr. Turtle, no less? I'm not sure you should be admitting to that, Inspector. Amazing. You're a woman of many faces, I see. Just two, really, and this was a once-in-a-lifetime event, I hope. Oh, I'm not a patch on you, though, Inspector. Well, I am a professional, of course. I do worry about Inspector Hosonaga sometimes, I really do. 9 months ago, when he appeared here at the Supreme Court to testify, he was undercover, disguised as the head waiter of a restaurant. And then on the steamship to Great Britain, of course,
disguised as a sailor to keep us safe on the journey. Eh, that didn't work out. Yep, dead as hell. From my perspective, I have to admit that I have mixed feelings about all this. I mean, now the truth has been lost forever. What do you mean? I'm talking about the murder that the Englishwoman committed at the end of last year. Ah, yes, it was an English doctor she killed, as I understand it. Dr. John H. Wilson, yes. The man I invited to Japan personally. The mystery is, why did she kill him? Now that the culprit herself is dead, we'll probably never know the answer. On the voyage to Great Britain, we had a most unexpected encounter. With Mr. Herlock Sholmes, the great detective, I mean. Yes, I remember Mr. Sholmes well, of course. Ah, my arch-nemesis. How lightly you utter his name. Well, according to the stories published about him in the Adventures of Herlock Sholmes, the detective once had a partner who helped him solve crimes. A best friend. And that man was an exceptional doctor of medicine, by the name of John H. Wilson. What? Dr. Wilson? I just can't believe that it's a coincidence. I think that the English doctor of medicine killed here in Japan 9 months ago must have been the friend and partner of Mr. Sholmes. And if that's really true, then the poor girl won't ever see her beloved father again. As you know, I traveled to Great Britain once myself to study. It was around the time you were born. Yes, grandmother told me about it. On returning to Japan, I took up my professorship at the Imperial Yume University, but I also serve another role, as an advisor to the government on diplomatic affairs. Yes, I was aware of that as well. In that case, I'm sure you understand. But there are some confidential matters I cannot divulge to you. Could you just tell me one thing? Why did you summon me back to Japan? Oh shit! It's been 2 months now since I returned. When I left England, it was because an urgent telegram had arrived from Japan. It said that you'd collapsed with a high fever, and you were growing weaker by the day. What? Where did that news come from? That's what I'd like to know, because after that long sea voyage, I found you in fine health, Father. Was there something in Great Britain that you perceived might inconvenience me in some way, or harm me? That's really the only explanation I can think of. Dear me. Do you reserve your most cutting glares for your father, Susato? I'm sorry, my dear, I simply can't— Ah! Let me go! Memo-san! So, one throw wasn't enough for you. I've got one last thing to say before they take me away. Professor! Me? I know the truth. I know you had a hand in what went on. In that visiting student's fate. Visiting student? Giselle Brett, you mean? No, not her! The student of law who left for Great Britain 8 months ago! What? Student of law? He must mean Kazuma-sama? What are you talking about? What does anything have to do with Kazuma-sama? Nobody in here Japan knows anything about it! They don't know the guy never made it to England, that he died on that steamship, and that he'll never— Ah! What the fuck?
Well, I didn't expect to find him in here. What are you officers playing at?
Terribly sorry, Your Excellency. Holy shit.
The judicial takedown!
The legendary Judge Takedown. Spoken of only in legend. It's said to only happen once every 1,000 years. Maybe 100 years. The legends vary. Maybe the judge in the next Ace Attorney game will do a judicial takedown, passed down for generations. Yes, thank you for dealing with him, and I'll be there shortly. Oh, Your Excellency.
Ha 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 ha! The trial's over. I'm not Your Excellency anymore. Merely your father's friend, Seishiro Jigoku. And may I say that since I saw you last, you seem to have taken on a more dashing appearance. Susato. Did you know all along, from the start of the trial? Ha 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 ha! A judge sees everything, Susato. And I couldn't let you take the risk if Seishiro here hadn't known, and then he'd recognize you. So I had a word in his ear beforehand, as an old friend. So, Seishiro, shall we? Yes, having ruled in that case, we now have various diplomatic issues to address. Before you go, Father! Sorry, my dear. We shall have to return to our earlier conversation at a later date. But well done again, both of you. You did admirably.
Oh, thank you very much.
What did you think of my Seishiro sling, eh? It's been a while since I sent a man flying like that. Ha 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 ha!
He's hiding a lot. And about Kazuma? No one knows Kazuma died? What do you mean no one knows Kazuma died? Judicial Assistant Mikotoba-san, Esquire S. Could I have a word? Oh, yes, of course, Soseki-san. What is it? I think perhaps it could be fate that we're meeting again like this now. You see, there's something I need to tell you. Oh? I believe that it may be related to the reason why your father summoned you back from England. This I have to hear. Please, Soseki-san, tell me at once. I will! As you know, my time in England was terrible. Cursed, I have no doubt. Such awful things I was embroiled in. Thank goodness locum student Naruhodo-san Esquire stepped in. After he secured my freedom, I couldn't wait to get on a ship back here to my homeland. Having arrived in Japan, I submitted a report about my experiences to the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. The next thing I knew, I had a visitor. It was your father, Professor Mikotoba. He wanted to ask me all sorts of things about my report. My father? He seemed to be especially taken with a particular part of the report. Anyway, he left eventually, having thoroughly quizzed me. But it was the very next day that he sent the telegram to you, asking you to return to Japan. What was it then? The particular part my father was interested in. Was it the Reaper? Was it the Reaper? But do you remember them? Those two terrible cases I was caught up in? Of course, I could never forget. Your father seemed to concern himself mainly with the second case. The second one? You mean the one Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about in public? Oh! Okay, hold up. No, I'm missing out on some stuff here. Because this has been nagging at me. He's only mentioned, we only saw one case he was caught up in. I knew it! 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 In the first game, just after Soseki Natsume's first trial, they were like, oh, we'll go have dinner together. It'll be great. It'll be great. And he disappeared. He went away, and we didn't have a cutscene after showing us having dinner. And because he was prosecuted by the Reaper, I had presumed that he was going to die. But then, the next scene was like, it's been a couple of months, and Natsume went back to Japan. That's enough time and space for a second case to have happened. And this is not one we played in the main game. And this is why Mr. Sholmes forbade any of us to talk about it in public. Which is why the only case involving you that any member of the public is aware of is the first. Well, I don't care. I don't have to listen to what that dastardly detective says. Anyway, the point is, it seems that case somehow holds the key to all these curious unanswered questions. That horrific, hideous, heinous case. The case of the haunted lodgings. That case somehow caused my father to summon me urgently back to Japan? I thought that whole business was over, but it seems I was wrong. Perhaps that was only the start. Perhaps the story is not yet told. End. We're back at Kazuma's.
So, the mystery of that English woman's death is solved, thank goodness. And having stood in the Supreme Court now, I think I can comprehend a little better. How you must be feeling as you fight for people's freedom in a foreign land, Naruhodo-san. But actually, I'm writing to you today because of another matter. I met Sosek-san and we talked about that second case he was involved in. Father has said nothing to me, but I feel certain of it. That case holds the key to some great unsolved mystery. My notes on the case should still be in the office, tucked away at the back of the shelves on the left. Perhaps you might like to look over them again. Today, for the first time this year, it feels as though summer has arrived. The sky is a brilliant blue. It makes me long to see you again. Yours, Susato.
Why did he not tell anyone about Kazuma's death? What the fuck? I can't believe this. This is nightmarish. Alright. That's going to be it for today's stream. So let's go find somebody to raid. Let's go hang out for a little bit. Ah, hello. Welcome to the hangout area. Well, I closed the game. Oh, interesting. Sorry. I'm just looking at the titles of the cases. But we'll get back to that another time. Exit game. Alright. Whew. Alright. Once again, thank y'all for coming out. Let's find somebody to raid. Who's online? I don't follow that many people on Twitch. It's hard to find people to raid. I haven't done it before. Also, it's late. How many viewers do we even have? It's got one viewer, maybe. It's fine. We'll just cut the stream. The issue is that I keep on going for as long as I want to go, and I don't stop when people are trimming down, because my streams are so long that it's hard to raid people. It's hard to decide, you know, all right, let's stop. And yeah, I don't know. But it's fine. We'll go ahead and end it here. Thank you all for coming out and watching. Thank you for stopping by my orbit. Hope to see you next time. We'll figure out what the fuck is going on. I hope. God, could you imagine if there's like even more unanswered questions at the end of The Great Ace Attorney 2? That would be insane. I would lose it. Anyways, later.